Ladies and gentlemen, if you're a sports fan, you gotta really be a happy person right now. This is probably the best time of the year. Maybe not so much if you are an anti-Ranger fan, but certainly if you are a fan of sports. We got NBA Finals to talk about tonight. We've got even some NFL that's going to come up in the near and distant future. We've got obviously NHL playoffs galore, Major League Baseball, and much, much more. And I'm going to speak with my guys to get through all of it here. That is, of course, Randy Dillon, back by popular demand from the Hockey Fan Chat here. Justin Gianelli wearing a 2009 Los Angeles Lakers NBA championship shirt here. He from the Baseball Banter Show. Chris Pizzea of the Talking Rivals, who just had a space on Twitter. Also the Liftoff Jets. Looking forward to playing that again here throughout the weekend. Back by popular demand with a brute-like return here. The brute force Brad Weiss, who, of course, the legendary now SJ New York, which I'm still trying to get used to. SJ New York Golden Eagle men's basketball alum. Also Level Up Basketball, Long Island Nets. I guess the Brew Crew. Maybe we'll mention the Brew Crew if they're playing, if you're playing. And, of course, most notably from our Plainview JFK Hawks boys JV team as the head coach. And, guys, how you doing tonight?
Doing good.
Pretty good.
Doing great.
I would have gave you guys like the intro we give to all the wrestlers that come on, but at this point, my voice is a little bit so-so. So I would do it, but unfortunately, I don't know if I'd be able to make it through. But in the meantime here, certainly a lot to get into. And obviously the topic of most people's minds, at least in the hockey world, and I do want to, because I have Randy Dillon here for about 40 or 45 minutes. I want to get into the NHL. Then Rob Moroska will be back at 10:30. We'll speak a lot about baseball. There's a lot to talk about with baseball. I certainly want to get into that. And I'll bring Randy in here first before I circle the wagons here. I mean, Randy, a lot to get into here. Rangers, Lightning going on here as we speak. Always fun when you can recap a series and while it's live, and we've been fortunate. Now, I guess one way to look at it as a Rangers fan or not, that we do get sports to talk about here live, but give me your thoughts on where we are, especially with this Rangers team, because it seems like you really can't dig a grave for them because they keep coming back and even in this game right now. So give me your thoughts on how the New York Rangers have gotten to where they are right now in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Tampa Bay Lightning.
I think, honestly, for the Rangers, once they were able to get past Pickford in that series, because you could tell that series for them, everything could go wrong. Igor Kostorkin couldn't make a save at one point. They were playing bad defensively. They were giving up goals left and right. It was just bad. I think after they got through that series with the Penguins, everything just started to click. Like even last series against Carolina, they were down 2-0, but they weren't playing bad hockey at some point. They were still playing some good hockey. I think the Canes really struggled in that series. But when a team believes like the Rangers do, and you come from adversity down 3-1, 2-0, it's all system goes. How they're playing with Tampa right now, they're using their speed. They're playing a great speed game where the both are just getting hemmed into the zone, which I think does hurt them without Braden Point being the lineup. Their big guys are going all series go, and I don't think there's anything really to stop this team from going to the Cup final at this point. Tampa's not going to give up without a fight. I really thought after game one, Tampa was going to come out hard, and they did, but right now they're just struggling, and I think the way the Rangers going, if Tampa can't find a response, don't be surprised this team's in the final in next week.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, Ranger fan or not, anytime a team has come back as many times as the Rangers have, you definitely cannot count them out. And Justin, I was thinking of you because Neil Villapiano was playing his Devil's State of Mind show here on Sportswire Radio, and we were hearing from Ryan Carter speaking about the 2012 Devils team. And what was so interesting, and this is how I kind of bring you in here, is that he was making comparisons to that team, to this year's Rangers team, and kind of how they kept coming back and the depth of the team and kind of just going out there with no pressure and such. I mean, I know for you, it's got to be tough right now, obviously seeing the Rangers having the success that they've had, but walk me through your thoughts on where we are right now and how this Rangers team has gotten themselves where Randy just said that they legitimately could be in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely agree with kind of what Ryan Carter said about, what you see from this Ranger team as opposed to that 2012 Devils team. I mean, and especially his line with Steven Giunta and Steve Bernier, it always was that energy line, and then this kid line,
the CBG line. I forgot about the name. It was the CBG line.
Carter, Giunta, Bernier, but and this kid line with Lafreniere, Hedl, and Kakko, they've been everything that this team could ask for. because at times, Panarin hasn't been great. Zibanejad wasn't really great until like Game 6 of the
Pittsburgh series.
The Carolina series.
Right.
He did have some moments in the Pittsburgh series too.
The end, he was big in those games.
But he's been more consistent since Game 6 of the Carolina series.
Yep.
And look, I mean, it's tough to admit it as somebody who's not a Ranger fan, but this team they're fast, they're young, they're an exciting team to watch, and they're in a really good position. Now, what I'll be interested in is, first of all, obviously it's a 2-1 game in the second period, and this game could still go either way. But just from what you're seeing, Tampa can't get any sustained pressure on the New York Rangers, and the Rangers are just making it difficult from every avenue. What I'll be interested to see is Sunday in Game 3 how Tampa comes out at home, and that'll really determine how long this series is going to go, because there's a good chance. And I know they're the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions. I mean, I have every reason to believe that the Rangers could actually end this series early.
Wow, I'll tell you what. I mean, I did say to one of our listeners, Daniel Slavin, and we have a few comments, and I'll get to those in a second, but I said to him, because he's also a noted New Jersey Devils fan, that the series still doesn't start until the home team loses. So
of course,
stay tuned here. A lot of hockey to play with, and I want to get to some comments. Obviously, Anthony J. Finkel, who again had a great birthday bash in beautiful Marine Park, which unfortunately I missed for a few different reasons. The first reason I missed it was because the first half of the day it rained, and I wasn't sure if it was still going on in the second half of the day. Then the second half of the day, I got roped into a job, so unfortunately, I wasn't able to come to the first or second half of the party. But I will say to Anthony Finkel, if he does want to come out to Duffy's or certainly Lucia Pizza out not too far from in Brooklyn, I'll definitely treat him and would happy to see him. So Anthony says, Friday night sports night with the boys, best night of the week, full crew in the house tonight. Good to see the Brute back. We missed him. Yes, we definitely did miss the Brute Force, Brad Weiss. Also, Keith Engel of TGI Sports says, great time for New York sports. Good to see you guys over. Absolutely. Listen, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, Yankees in first place comfortably, Mets in first place. You got the Rangers also in terms of where they are right now. I mean, forget about the Nets. The Nets were all of a sudden a blip in the radar, but everything else right now is looking good. But Chris, I mean, I know it's tough for you to talk about the Rangers, and I can't blame you. And I'm going to get to the Brute Force in a different context when it comes to the Rangers in a player-coach mentality. But, I mean, got to be tough. I mean, seeing this as us as Islander fans. But give me your thoughts right now on the Rangers and where they are, I guess.
Oh, they're playing great. You got to give them all the credit in the world. But you also got to look at it from the other side. It just shows you how tough it is for a team to do what Tampa Bay has done. 2 straight cups, and now they're trying for a third one in a row. You could see they are not the same team that won it last year. You could see they're just – you hate to say that they're just beaten down, but they kind of are. I think they're just physically – they're an older team, and it's starting to catch up to them. And I think it's going to be over tonight. If the Rangers win tonight, I think the series is done.
Wow, everybody's going on a limb here. Justin's saying, I mean, could it early? You're saying that? Wow.
I think it'll be 4 or 5 games. I think 5 at the most.
I think the loss of Braden Point is just too. It could be too devastating to the Rangers.
That's what I was going to add there, Justin. I was going to say it depends what happened with Braden Point going into the series, because we know he's been out since Game 7 of the Leafs series. He's had some time to rest up. The question will be, I think at this point, if they go down 2-0, he's going to play Game 3. But how much does he have in the tank for Game 3?
He's going to play Game 3. He was basically ruled out for the entire series.
They said he would return at some point. They said,
yeah, but hockey players are like superhuman. We all know that all of a sudden they'll find a way. I mean, I forget, was it 1 year Johnny Boychuk played with like a broken foot for the Islanders, and they didn't reveal it until I'm pretty sure days ahead of time afterwards. I mean, hockey players are different. If it's any other sport,
look at Ryan Lindgren.
Yeah,
he's playing beat up right now.
I mean, listen, these guys play.
Here's another sad fact that non-Ranger fans got to accept. This team is not going away either. This team is going to be good for the next half a decade at least. So, yeah, I mean, and I don't see anybody beating them, at least in our division, in the near future. I mean,
The sports can
What do you
change, though.
think
I
this
mean,
team-
sports can change, though. One of the lines I heard, and I'll bring the brute force Brad Weiss in here from a second in a different context. And Keith Engel says, love the Rangers, but the champs are the champs until you put them down, which I still believe in that. But
Yeah,
I mean,
that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, at the end of the day, you're getting here now. You got to take advantage of it. There is no guarantees. I mean, yes, on paper, the Rangers are locked and loaded. They've got the kid line. They've got Panarin. They've got Zibanejad. They've got Adam Fox from Plainview. Got to mention Plainview, of course, for the Brute Force and our Long Island fans. But, I mean, things can change at the drop of a dime. I mean, listen, in 2012, right, Ryan Carter brings up the Devils. The Devils haven't won a postseason series since. You just never know. But I want to bring in the Brute Force Brad Weiss from a different perspective because the Rangers come back here all these different times, down multiple times, and they're in Carolina. It's a game 7. And Carolina, listen, for all the talk about Carolina being not so great, they hadn't lost at home in ages. I mean, this was a team that every time they're home, they won no problem and disposed of all the games that they had to win. So you had to still be feeling good if you were Carolina. But, I mean, as a player, I mean, how difficult is that to brute force in terms of coming back as many times as the Rangers have had? Because I almost feel like you've got to have a certain mindset that's maybe different than you would at any given time. I mean, walk me through that mindset.
Absolutely. So what's up, guys? What's up, Anthony Finkel? I'm happy to hear that you are welcoming back. I appreciate you also putting those championship emojis next to the end of that statement because I'm actually coming off being a champion. I'm wearing my shirt today. Our Level Up Men's League team won the championship last night, so I'm feeling pretty good about championships.
Well
and I'm also feeling pretty good about the Rangers potentially winning a championship. Yes, I said it. Now, let me first start before I get into Tom's question about my background. So my father is a Rangers fan. I'm not a big hockey fan, but I will say that if the playoffs come around and the Rangers start winning, I start to watch. All right, I start to watch. Now, I'm not this annoying fan. I'm not going to go off and be annoying, but I will watch, and I have been watching. And the Rangers are playing some great, great hockey. When it comes to the mindset in Game 7 as a player and a coach, well, first of all, let's give Gerard Gallant a lot of credit as a first-year coach. I mean, you see it in both the NBA and in hockey right now, Gallant with the Rangers and Ime Udoka with the Celtics.
We'll get to the NBA later. Absolutely. No
two
question.
first-year coaches who have done an absolutely spectacular job with their rosters in their first year. But the Rangers right now, I mean, they go into Game 7, and the one thing that you have to do on the road against a team that's basically never lost at home is take momentum from them immediately. And they did that. And that's huge. I think the Rangers were ready. I thought Carolina looked like they kind of were like, yeah, we're going to win this game because we're the home team.
They just came out totally flat. The Rangers got up early on them, and it was like there was never a game afterwards. I know.
Yeah, I think the Rangers knew. The Rangers knew they had to get on him early, and I think that as a coach, that's the mentality. If you get on him early, you shut that crowd down. They were quiet. You could hear the Ranger fans in Carolina louder than the Carolina fans.
I didn't realize there was like so many Ranger fans there in that 7th game. I mean,
there were tons, so you could hear them. But that's exactly what you need. You need to take the momentum early, get the fans out of the game, and then take over. And that's exactly what the Rangers did in that 6-2 win. So props to the Rangers. But the one thing, I have a couple things I want to say. First thing I want to say, this man McDonough on ESPN, that analyst, that guy that's doing play-by-play.
Sean McDonough.
Yeah, can he stop calling the Rangers kids? All right, listen, they are young, all right, but they are not kids, all right. They're young adults, and right now they look like players who are not kids. All right, they're playing really well. They're like you guys said, they're moving up and down the ice really quick. They're making plays, and they're fun to watch. I mean, it's starting to make me think about why I skipped watching so many Ranger games to watch those damn New York Knicks. I should be watching more Rangers games. But
you are right now. You just said you're watching the game. So, I mean, obviously.
Exactly. So, I don't know why. But to Chris and Justice's point, I mean, this team is not going anywhere. It's really exciting to see. And dare I say that this man, Igor Shesterkin, is the next Henrik Lundqvist. I mean, this guy is really good, man. I mean, he does a great job goaltending for the Rangers. So it's exciting times. Adam Fox, the Long Island kid, also is a fun story as well out here.
Boy, Plainview is really represented right now. You got Adam Fox, and then for wrestling, you got MJF. I mean, right now, Plainview is like the pinnacle of like sports and wrestling.
Well,
I mean,
I will say one thing. I will say Adam Fox is from Jericho. Now, Jericho and Plainview do actually combine in some sports. So, yeah, we could give him credit. He's playing, all right? in a way. And he played with the Supran brothers, so those are guys I played Brew Crew with. So we've
been on the show, and we know them
part
very
of the
well.
family. But it's exciting, man. It's exciting. A lot of my people around me have been to Rangers game. I actually had a kid who skipped my level up game tonight to be at the Ranger game. So people are excited about it.
How did you deal with that? Now I'm curious. How did you deal with the fact that somebody skipped a game tonight in order to watch game 2? I mean, how did you deal with that?
I mean, my job is to be nice and to accept it. At the same time, he was one of my better players. So we did get stomped tonight, so it wasn't great. But with that being said, the mother was like, we can't miss this game. We got these tickets. And I said, you know what? I understand because this team's playing at a high level. They're exciting. And it's just nice.
And I heard, by the way, I was listening to this on the radio. This was WCBS. This was early in the morning, and this was Scott Shannon, who's a legendary DJ, if anybody who knows in the New York area, before I get to a John Gonzalez comment, which I can't wait to bring on the air here. But he was saying that there were tickets going between for $8,000 and $9,000 tonight. That's what I heard. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I heard between $8,000 and $9,000 were for some seats. I mean, I guess
I'm not surprised. I mean, Madison Square Garden's already expensive to begin with. When it comes to the playoffs, I mean, listen, there's not that many playoff games there. We got to talk about that too.
In the last several years, the Rangers, this is the first time they're playing really deep into the postseason since 2015, and let's not even bring up the Knicks. And I got a Plainview reference for you. I was thinking about you this morning for whatever reason. The Brew Force. I don't know if you know this or not, and I don't know if some of the other guys will get this here, but there's a company that's always doing work throughout the New York area, especially in Staten Island and Brooklyn, called Halen Construction. And they're in Plainview. I have no idea if you ever heard of Halen Construction or not. And my first thought was when I see their truck, because they do pavements and all the different stuff. It's like, this is like 5 o'clock in the morning. So it's just me and these different workers. I'm thinking of the Brew Force Brad White. I see the Plainview, New York address on the truck. So I don't know if you had even noticed that. So
that actually sounds familiar. That's actually pretty cool. So I'm still waiting, by the way, to find Justin Gianelli on the streets of Long. No, he's close, and I got an Amazon order coming soon. So maybe see some Justin Gianelli.
You might.
Oh, listen, certainly, and you might see me.
Can I ask a quick question before we
Absolutely, jump in. Feel free.
Randy, how did two teams, not one, but two teams, end up trading away Fox?
From what I've heard was he was never going to sign with either team in Calgary or in Carolina. Calgary had very high hopes of him, but they knew he was never going to sign when they drafted him. And that's why they fleeced Carolina in that deal to get Lindholm and Hannafin back in 2018. Because he wasn't ever going to go to Calgary. I think it always was he wanted to go to New York. And I think Carolina thought they could get him, but they were wrong. And really, they have nothing to show for that deal. But he always wanted to stay in New York. Calgary did the smart thing to ship him out right away. And he's bringing dividends where he wanted to play there. And usually sometimes that can be a mix where a big hometown player, they return and it can go south. But he had done a tremendous job of being the hometown hero, playing well. We saw with, for example, Tavares heading back to Toronto. It's been an up and down battle for him. He's had his moments and up. But Fox has just been all system go with New York.
Yeah, it's always interesting when players come back and they play from somewhere that they grew up in. You always could go either way. And I got to bring up this comment because I feel like if I don't, I'm going to basically forget about it. And that is, of course, John Gonzalez of the Sports Authorities Group. And John says here, thank you, Mr. Nolan, for making hockey great again. Is there a better owner in sports? You want to comment, Brad?
Do I have to comment? I mean, the one thing I'll say, John Gonzalez, is he always has to bring up James Dolan once a show, so he did it now. All right, but it's just that we talk about it all the time. And for some reason, it's like, we talk about the hands-on and hands-off approach. It's like with the Rangers, it's hands-off, and with the Knicks, it's hands-on. So until that, it's great for the Rangers. I mean, they always seem to have some good people in place. Hockey-wise, to have a good operation, where the Knicks are always a tragic embarrassment.
But it's so interesting, and this could be for anybody here, as we're on Sportswire Radio now, speaking all things related to the world of sports with Randy Dolan. Jump in, Randy. Go ahead.
Well, the thing is with Dolan, I talked to a few Ranger fans about this. He was, after the whole Tom Wilson incident, he had some hands-on with one firing Jim Gordon, Jeff Gorton, their former And I'm thinking of Batman for a second. Jeff Gordon, their former GM, they got rid of Dave quit after, and they made some changes. They went out and aggressively got
John Davidson's no longer in the front office.
Yeah,
Also,
he was after that incident. He wanted to make this team big and tough, and it really had paid dividends. Getting guys like Barkley, Goudreau, getting guys like Ryan Reeves, Sammy Blade. He had some impact on the regular season, but not. And then bringing Drury and how aggressive he was. So he did have a big point of getting the team to this point after the last year fiasco with Wilson and Panarin.
But I'm curious, and I don't know if I can get an answer for this, and this could be for anybody in the room here with us live tonight. And the fact that I can't think of a situation where in sports you have an owner that owns teams in multiple sports where all of a sudden it's like the complete opposite, right? You look at the Rangers and they're having the success they've had, right? And the Knicks, it's been in perpetual motion. I mean, there have been times that the Rangers have had a lot of success, but with the Knicks, it just, we spoke about it at length in the 3.5 years the Sports Report has been alive. But I mean, can anybody think of a situation where an owner owns multiple teams and all of a sudden it's like a completely different approach where one team has so much success than the other? It's like they're constantly stuck, like I said, in perpetual motion.
I don't know how many current owners there are in sports who own multiple franchises. I know Kroenke has the Avalanche and the Nuggets, and both of them are, pretty solid teams. I mean, the Nuggets were in the postseason, and look where the Avs are, up 2-0 in their Western Conference final.
Like Leondis had both the Capitals and the Wizards.
Capitals and the 76ers, aren't they owned by the same group?
Yeah, they owned by Ted Leondis. They've been up and down. So
the Capitals and the Wizards, right?
Yeah, Wizards. Yeah, the Capitals and the Wizards.
Yeah, the Wizards haven't been great.
Mm-hmm.
No. Maybe that would be a comparable comp. And
the Devils and 76ers?
That was my one I kind of thought.
Harrison Blitzer?
Yeah.
They've been garbage. They've been garbage owners of the Devils.
I mean, 76ers have had success, but they just haven't had really postseason success here. I mean, I'm trying to think of anybody else that would come to mind.
No one in Canada, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, have you seen what the situation financially is? I mean, but yeah, there's really trying to think of any other situation that maybe would arise, and it's hard to really make a comparison. And John Gonzalez says, "No worries, Dolan will bring LeBron to the Knicks." I don't know how this has anything to do with LeBron.
It's not as bad as Buffalo with the Pagulas and how they have the Bills and maybe the Sabres.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good one. You know what? Because look at Buffalo with the Sabres, and the Sabres haven't been to the postseason over a decade, and the Bills have basically the last, I think, 4 of the last 5 years in the postseason, been to a championship game, success last year. So yeah, maybe the Pagulas would be a comparable one to Dolan. That's a good one. Good catch there, Rand. That would be one that would come to mind here. I mean, that's a very, very good point. I mean, so I'm going to throw it out here before I cover a little bit of the Oilers and the Avalanche. I mean, for anybody, since we have a lot of people I know tuned in want to hear about the Rangers. I mean, Randy, I just heard all these great things about the Rangers, but the Tampa Bay Lightning are still the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions. I mean, give me a case on how they could come back.
They're going to have to somehow limit the Rangers' speed. From what I've heard on the radio and what I've watched, the Rangers' speed is the detriment right now to the Lightning. I think we go back to the Toronto series. The Leafs really gave the Lightning problem with their speed.
Those first 3 games of the series, it was basically it was a track meet.
Yeah, they gave them problems, and I think that what the Lightning are going to have to do. I think being at home ice in Game 3 will definitely help, but this game's not over. They're one shot away, and Vasilevsky's going to shut the door. I think the other thing as well, they're just going to have to limit their turnovers and limit the chances for the Rangers. As we see with the Oilers and Avalanche, the Avalanche are really giving it to the Oilers with speed, and they got to find a way. And that's the same with the Lightning right now. They got to find a way to cause the Rangers not speed game to turn off. Otherwise, it's going to be hard, even with home ice advantage in the last change.
Very well could be. And John Gonzalez makes a pretty good point. Tampa Bay looks really slow. Rangers look younger and faster, which I think is so ironic. And Justin, I'm going to ask you this question. I hadn't thought about it until maybe just now after hearing Randy had spoke. I mean, is it maybe because Tampa Bay had, over a week that they were off after they clinched their series against Florida, or close to a week, and the Rangers were pretty much playing, 14 games. They had to fight the hard way, and maybe one way to look at it, why the Rangers have had the success here so far, is the fact that Tampa Bay had several days off. I never forget the instance where in 2019, the Islanders had swept the Penguins, and there was a quirk in the postseason schedule for availability at the Barclays Center, and the fact that the Islanders didn't play for 12 days, and they looked kind of like Tampa Bay did right now, kind of slow and kind of out of sync in rhythm, and Carolina took it to them. I mean, is it maybe the possibility because the Rangers have been playing so much and that Tampa Bay is kind of trying to get their groove back? Is that maybe part of where we are in this series right now, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think that can absolutely play a big time factor. There's nothing you can replicate in practice that is as close to game speed against an opponent that you could do it. So, and especially for a guy like Vasilevsky, who just looked absolutely slow in his reaction time on Wednesday night. Now he's looked a little bit better tonight. And you can see he's shaking that rust off of the 9 days off. Yeah, I think it's an absolute factor. The Rangers have basically played every other day for the last, month because they played 7 games. Guess what? 1 day off, game 1. So, the Rangers have had that consistency each and every day, knowing that they have a game the next day. And, the Lightning, I mean, give them credit. They played an incredible series, and they wiped the floor with the Florida Panthers, but you know what? They at times looked extremely rusty yesterday and on Wednesday. And it could certainly come back to bite them. But again, it's a long series. It's a 7-game series. They're only down a goal tonight as we go to the third period. They would like to get a road split, but you know what? They'll have 2 games to get their legs underneath them, and even if they are down 2-0, the home ice advantage, is going to be much greater than what the Carolina Hurricanes have at PNC Arena. So I think they're still going to feed off that, and still, even though I said that there's a very good chance that the way things are looking, that the Rangers could end this early, we also could very well be looking at coming back 2-2 next time.
Listen, I'm still not counting them out. They're the Stanley Cup champions for a reason, and I think Amalie on Sunday, their arena is going to be very, very loud there Sunday. No question that is going to be a loud place regardless of the outcome here. And John Gonzalez says the Rangers kid line is driving Tampa crazy. John Gonzalez continues to pat himself on the back. I picked Rangers in 7. And, of course, cheap plug here, Sports Authorities group on Facebook. If you haven't joined it, please join it. Over 4,000 members strong. John does a great job with the group. There's always content there from all different types of sports. We even have those that are into rugby now that have joined the group, including our guest this past Monday, Lord Damian Stone of the CCW out there in the UK. So definitely get out there and join the Sports Authorities group. You see all the time posts between Anthony Finkel and John Gonzalez. I forget if it's Anthony Finkel's group or John Gonzalez's group. I'm only kidding, John Gonzalez. I'm only kidding, John. So I want to make sure you don't untake me off as a moderator. But, I mean, listen, Chris, I do think at the end of the day, maybe it is the fact that the Tampa Bay Lightning had a long time to sit down. I'm going to ask the Brute Force the same question because I always like to hear an athlete's perspective on it. I do think part of me thinks that the Rangers, because they've been playing so frequently, their backs have been up against the wall so many times that, you know what? Maybe it's worked to their advantage, whereas Tampa Bay, they sat, I'm sure, on the golf course the whole last week. They were sitting there in 85-degree Tampa, and they had probably they were in the beach, and the girls in the bikinis on their laps, and they were having a good time. I mean, practice, you cannot replicate what you have here in the postseason. And I do think back, again, 2019 with the Islanders, we had the 12 days off, and it just kept going and going because Carolina and Washington were in a 7-game series, very similar to what we saw with the Rangers and Carolina. So that's my summary of it.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I think they planned it right. Tampa gave the coach gave the team, I think, 2 full days off the first 2 days, and then they went back to their normal practice. But it's not the same, obviously, as playing.
No, it can't be.
Yeah, I think it showed more with the goalie than the team itself in the first game. He looked totally off. I mean, how many times do you see that guy give up 6 goals especially in a
often.
playoff game.
Not often.
So,
not in the postseason.
yeah, I mean, this game is more of what I think we were probably going to see.
The only thing you could really compare it to was Game 1 against the Maple Leafs. Toronto beat them 5-0, and look how that series turned out. So I mean, yeah, of course you can't.
But I'll say this: if they don't
take them out yet,
if they don't pull this game out, Tampa, I think they're done.
Well, we'll certainly find out here. And I've got a couple more comments before I get to the brute force, and they're kind of funny ones, and I got to put them up here. And John Gonzalez says the Bolts might have to bring in Tom Brady. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's the case, right? Maybe bring Tom Brady in to fire up the crowd. And Anthony J. Finkel, of course, the DPH Property Service, which you should be following on Facebook if you haven't already. They do a great job in representing the greater New York area. And he says, where can I sign up for the golf course with the pool with the girls in bikinis on my lap? Well, I mean, Marine Park. You've obviously had a lot of connections to the Marine Park golf course, so that would be one connection. Now, as for the girls in bikinis, we're going to have to maybe look elsewhere. I don't know. I mean, maybe I can ask some of them in the UK. Maybe we can just ship some of them here, and maybe that'll be the case. I don't know what the answer is to that, but certainly, unfortunately, I'm not a star athlete that plays in the NHL or the other major sports, so I might be missing something. But when I miss it and find it, I'll make sure that you're the first person, Mr. Finkel, and the rest of the gang here with us that will definitely enjoy the fun with me as well. So hopefully that day does happen. But I do want to ask you the brute force on this because I do find it interesting because you were an athlete, you played at St. Joe's, you were in the postseason, you've dealt with these different adversities, and I know it's different with a college basketball schedule, but you do, in a sense, you play 2 days at a time or 3 days at a time, and you have these different breaks and such. And I'm curious, from your perspective, I mean, is there something to it that a team is just playing over and over and over? I never even forget looking at our St. Joe's team this year, and I felt like at times in the second half we were a little bit more of a fresher team because in the first half we had those 3 and 4 days of in-between games because of COVID and whatever else it was, where I kind of felt like in the second half because we had a more consistent schedule and we even playing like game every other day at one point in the schedule. I kind of felt that helped us. I mean, is there something to it as a player that you go on a long break and it takes hard to get back to your rhythm and the team that you're playing that's been playing, and is there something to that, you think?
Oh, there definitely is. And I'm going to start from a player's perspective because personally, the first thing I'm going to say is that a long layoff, which to me is more than a week's time, is not good for a team. And, people can argue about, but Brad, you get more practice and all that. And, you get all practice, but especially when it's the playoffs, I mean, and
I heard, yes. We have breaking news here. Mika Zibanejad has scored 3-1 Rangers. So certainly, if you're a Rangers fan, you were definitely partying here like it's, I guess, 1994, right? I guess that's 1994. It does kind of feel like that. The weather feels like that. The environment in New York with the Mets and Yankees. Listen, I'm an Islanders fan. Listen, I'm not rooting for the Rangers, but it does kind of have that 1994 vibe right now. But the brute force certainly. The Tampa Bay Lightning aren't feeling that. But is there something to that, you think?
Yeah, well, like I was saying, I mean, as a player, I never liked a long layoff for a week or more. I mean, there's only so much practice that you can have in preparation for a team. And when it's in the playoffs, you're in a rhythm. And playoffs is all about having a rhythm, having momentum. And when you don't have it and you're out for so long, it's hard to just practice. And for the Lightning's sake, I mean, when we practice specifically, you're preparing for a team, and the Lightning didn't know who they were playing for so long. So what are they doing in practice? They're trying to tune up themselves. There's only so much you can do, especially at this time in the season, right? You've already gotten to a certain point. There's not so many things you could do in practice except for prepare for your opponent. So, unfortunately, I actually had this experience this past season as a coach. Where
I remember asking you. Remember we had the 2-week break we had after the last COVID scare, right? Remember it was 2 weeks, right? Two
yeah. Well, I'm going to reference a specific one. When we were in the playoffs of playing JFK, the varsity team, we played Syosset in the semifinals and we beat them. And it took over a week and a half for us to play the next game against Baldwin in the championship. And there's only so much of practice. We actually had to take days off of practice because we want to overwork the kids in practice. So it's never a good thing. And especially in the playoffs, you maybe need maybe a day or two, maybe 2 or 3 days to prepare, that's the longest for me. I actually prefer it be a day or two and then get to the next game. That's the way, because you stay in rhythm, you stay on the course, you stay on a schedule. That's how I like it as a player and a coach. But when it's such a long layoff, there's only so much you can do and so much you can repeat and so much, it starts to get boring at some point, especially I remember talking about the scout for Baldwin every day, and they're like, oh, we're talking about this again? Well, yeah, because we're not in the game yet. So it gets to a point where let's just get to the game. The long layoffs, and for the Lightning, I think it definitely affected them. I think for taking that long to wait for an opponent, to go around and practice, and like you said, sit on the golf course in Tampa, Florida, that did not help this team. And I think that's part of the reason, not the full reason, but part of the reason why they're so sluggish in these first two games.
I even think back before I get to John Gonzalez's funny comment. John's got some great funny comments for the reason, but I even think back in 2016, Chris, when the Islanders played the Lightning, it was weird because there was like a few different breaks because Barclays Center had scheduled like these goofy concerts or whatever it was, and there was like 2 days in between both the games, if I recall correctly. And I remember saying to myself, you know what, that's going to hurt the Islanders more than it's going to hurt the Lightning for whatever reason, because there's something about being a rhythm, being at home, and that's kind of what wound up happening. And maybe right now that's what it is for the Lightning. I don't know, but certainly it looks not too good for them. And John Gonzalez says, hold on, I have to go and check on the Generals game. Huge crowd in Birmingham. Actually, John Gonzalez, I'm going to do you a favor. I'll bet you that this Sunday for our LA Brew Crew, where are you guys playing? You're going to have more people wherever you're playing this Sunday than there'll be at a Generals game. Where are you guys playing?
We're playing at Newbridge Road Park in Belmore. So.
Yeah, there'll be more people at Newbridge Road Park in Belmore. I'll guess that there'll be between players' girlfriends, between just people checking from the fence, that there'll be more people than at the USFL game. I have given up on the USFL games here. So that's some of the things here, John. But thank you for the USFL update, John. I could really appreciate it. That's why we love the Sports Authorities group here. But, Randy, I wanted to ask you, in really quickly, thoughts on the Oilers and Avalanche before I transition here with Rob Morosky in about 15 minutes, because I got a lot of baseball to get into. But wanted to get your perspective here when it comes to the Oilers and Avalanche, where I'm still saying, and again, I said this in the Rangers and Lightning so far, the series doesn't start until the home team loses. And I have no doubt in this series that even though the way Edmonton played in Game 2, that I expect a big performance from them tomorrow night.
Oh, 100%. I'm expecting the Oilers, tomorrow they need to win, because you go down 3-0 to a team like the Avs.
It's over. It's
going to be hard, even without Darcy Kemper net. For the Oilers, there are going to be two things. One, they need to somehow either their transition game got to be better to keep up with Colorado, or they're going to have to somehow control it, because the Avs are faster teams than both the Flames and the Kings, and it's really hurting the Oilers. The second thing is, a player I'm looking at to be better for the Oilers is going to be Darnell Nurse. In Game 1, we saw that controversial goal with the Cale Makar offside. That goal should never happen. With 20 seconds to go, Darnell Nurse give the puck up. Game 2, a couple of bad giveaways. Now, I know they're saying he's playing hurt, but at the top pairing defenseman on the team, you got to be better in your own zone. You got to be aware of what's happening. You can't just give up the puck to players like the Avs. You got guys like Nathan McKinnon, Nazem Kadri. Mike Smith has been good enough for the Oilers in Game 2. You can't blame him there. You would like him maybe make one of those big saves. You know he'll be big in Game 3. But the Oilers, they're going to have to find a way to make some changes. Because if you watch Game 2, the Avalanche gave the Oilers nothing. Pavel Francouz, I think, had a very easy night in Game 2, allowing him to get the shutout. The Oilers didn't really do enough, making his life miserable. They're going to have to find a way to get more pucks in deep, get more chances, opportunities if they want to get into series and win tomorrow.
No question about it. Certainly, we have seen some exciting hockey, at least from Game 1. But, Justin, what's your thoughts here? Can Edmonton come back and make it a series? I'm still convinced with Draisaitl and McDavid that Edmonton will find a way here and have a big effort. But give me your thoughts.
I think one of the telling signs, though, from Game 2 was the way Colorado defended McDavid. You saw the way Cale Makar was basically harassing him, was all over him all night long. I don't know. This might be one of those token Oilers win Game 3, but that's
gonna be tough in Game 4.
Yeah, and then it's over in 5. Edmonton, I just don't think Edmonton has enough to match up. I mean, they got plenty of scoring weapons. That's never an issue, but I just think that at times they look overwhelmed by Colorado and the pressure they put on with their offense and the pressure that their defense has. So I don't know. I don't
Thomas, I
see
just
it.
want to add one thing to
Yeah, jump
Justin.
in, Randy.
What
Jump
he's
in for
saying.
me. Go ahead.
I think for the Oilers, the one thing they have is they don't know what Darcy Kemper's condition is. If they can find a way to get to Pavel Francois, they have a shot because he's not their number one, and obviously you hope you're back in McDavid. He did the job there, but the Oilers, they've had firepower. Look what they did to Markstrom in Calgary, a Vezina finalist. They made him look like he couldn't stop a beach ball. So I think if they can find a way to get to Francois and get some opportunities, they can get back in this series very easily without Kemper.
Yeah, I still feel like at the end of the day, with Edmonton, with McDavid, with Draisaitl, even guys like Kane, I feel like that they are going to come back here. Something tells me that they're going to make this a series. And John Gonzalez, of course, wants to give us the breaking news that the Generals are beating the Maulers 29-10. So certainly that's why people are tuned in tonight. They wanted that USFL coverage. Listen, it wasn't about the Rangers, wasn't about the Brew Crew news, wasn't about the Brute Force Brad Weiss winning a championship. It was about the USFL coverage. So certainly John Gonzalez, that's why he is with the Sports Authorities group. I mean, Chris, can Edmonton make it a series, you think? Or what's your thoughts here on this?
Yeah, I think so. Because, I mean, we've seen Colorado, we've been talking about them for the past couple of weeks where they get into the playoffs and they always find a way to lose. So I think I can't see this not being a series. So I definitely think Edmonton will make it a series. I still think Colorado's going to pull it out, but McDavid's going to do something spectacular and bring this team back into it. So I could see it being a series. It's not going to be over soon. I could see that going at least 6 games.
Yeah, I feel like at the end of the day, you got McDavid, you got the best player. Listen, they'll play him 24, 25, 26 minutes if they'll have to. They'll work the magic. They've still got the firepower. Something tells me here they'll at least win tomorrow. Maybe to Justin's point, after that, I don't know. But I want to ask real quick this question to Randy and Justin, and then I'll swing back over to the other guys, and Rob Morosco will come back in here in about 9 or 10 minutes. And like I said, a lot of baseball here I want to get to on Sportswire Radio, but this is specifically for Randy and Justin because obviously the news that they've been covering, we've spoke about it with the past with Randy when he's been on here live, is that the Arizona Coyotes, it looks like, are going to get a new arena as part of a agreement there, and I wanted to get Randy's perspective on it very quickly because this is something that we covered when Randy was on the show here back in the summer last year. And how big is this, you think, with the Arizona Coyotes? Is this now going to help them in terms of maybe competing to be back to where they were as maybe a playoff competing NHL franchise?
I absolutely think it does. There's 2 things that definitely help with the new arena once it gets built. One is closer. I've talked to some Arizona Coyote fans. Their old arena, Gila River Arena, was located in the middle of nowhere.
We saw that on the show, yep, on the Hockey Fan Chat show.
Yep, it's located in the middle of nowhere. So even for fans who want to watch the team, if you're driving somewhere, like it takes you an hour and a half to get there, there's no way to get back, nowhere public transportation. How are you going to go there? I know for a lot of you guys, but when the Islanders were in, I know some Islander fan who live out in Long Island and went to Brooklyn, it was hard to get out to games, and that definitely.
I remember. Listen, I was a season ticket holder for those years, and the people I sat with, a lot of them were like, they got to leave by 9:30, regardless of whether the game was over, because you couldn't really drive into Brooklyn. You had to get on the Long Island Railroad. So
Right,
yeah,
so
for me, it was great. I was one of the few people where this was fantastic. But again, by and large, the fan base on Long Island, to your point, they had to be at a certain time because if you missed that Long Island Railroad train, you're out of luck.
No, exactly. I think the big thing as well is this team is John Armstrong, who's now in charge of the Arizona Coyotes. He's done a great job of really getting a lot of picks for this team, trying to and we'll see how the draft and development done with this team. And I think the big thing this team's hoping for in 2 to 3 years is the hopeful signing of bringing the hometown boy Austin Matthews. Arizona never had a star caliber player like a Matthews, McDavid. And I think for one, and not just everyone like to talk about Arizona, where if you don't have that player, how are you going to get attention? At least teams like Tampa, they've had the Stamkos. They've
Florida,
Florida.
Cavalier, St. Louis.
Yeah.
I mean, they've had some good players throughout their
Exactly.
history.
And Florida and Arizona never have it. So I think for them, if they can really start drafting some good players that can get the attention of the league, and then hopefully in a few years that they sign Austin Matthews, that Heat franchise will definitely be strong.
Yeah, I've always thought naturally that would be a hotbed for a hockey market. I always thought basically just because of the sports that they have there and the weather, that would have been a natural fit.
And the one other thing, Justin, is we know that as long as Gary Bettman commissioner, Arizona ain't going to go nowhere. They could have been gone a long time ago. If they're not gone before, they ain't going anywhere soon. He put so much money in investment. The game of hockey definitely has grown so much in Arizona. So I know it's going to be tough for them with the arena thing.
Like Carolina, right, up until their playoff run, that was always a city that never drew, right? I mean, you look at the Florida Panthers; they've never really drawn up until recently. The NHL is very patient with their teams.
Even the
sports, not
the
as much.
Flames here in Calgary and Canada, like there was talk with them before the 2004 run, they were going to get moved in.
I remember that.
So like
even Edmonton, remember Edmonton did the lean years in the 90s with Peter Pocklington, Afterless and Messier left and all them. I mean, they were making the postseason, but it was like a very, very bare bones operation. I mean, so that was when the Canadian dollar dropped significantly, and a lot of those teams, Winnipeg left, Quebec left, Edmonton became very, very bare bones. Calgary, Theo Fleury left, and Gary Roberts left. I mean, a lot of different players that were there from that heyday there in the late 80s, early 90s were all gone. And Justin, I know you broke it here before we move on here and transition. I mean, any big significance you think here, similar to Randy, when it comes to the Coyotes staying in Arizona, it looks like now?
Yeah, I think this is of major significance because I think it's always bad for a city to lose a franchise. And we most recently saw this with the Thrashers going to Winnipeg. But the city, just like any other city, will be rocking once the team is good. I mean, you saw it during the 2012 postseason. They got to the conference finals that year. But and I think like Randy said, it was a horrendous idea to move them to Glendale.
Glendale, I think now I'm thinking about it. Glendale's not even there anywhere. Like Randy said, now I'm thinking about it in my head.
Exactly. And if I'm not mistaken, where the Suns play, I think the Suns play in Tempe. Because they used to share. It was then known as America West Arena.
Oh yeah.
Which is now where the Suns still play at the Footprint Center. But you played in Tempe for those years when you first got there, and look, you already changed your name to the Arizona Coyotes. You're not the Phoenix Coyotes anymore. So it works, and you move them to Tempe, and you're going to draw better. You're going to have a new building, new facilities. You're going to draw very well for the first couple of years. You're going to need to add some talent, and then you're on your way. There's great teams in each conference, but it's not like the Western Conference is so daunting that the Coyotes can't become a playoff contender in the next couple of years. But they got to get it. They got to get it going, and they got to start. They got to start going quickly.
No question that's definitely the case. And listen, obviously, good news if you're a Coyotes fan. When we had Randy's hockey fan chat, we had a Coyotes fan early in the season. I think it was around November or December.
December.
Yep, December, and it was a very, very good conversation. Again, listen, I mean, certainly it's a fan base there that's definitely dying for a winner. It's definitely dying for somebody to cheer. And come to think about it, I mean, Shane Doan is obviously the greatest player they've had. And I mean, Shane Doan's a nice player, but I mean, not a superstar player. So they have been kind of dying for that superstar player. So those are certainly some things that we'd definitely like to see here. And Randy, I'm going to give you the floor. I'm going to give you some closing because I know we're going to transition here to some other sports here. And always love having you here. And John Gonzalez has a funny line here before we move to you. It says, been to Arizona, melted quicker than Tampa has tonight. Was like 115. I mean, when I think of Arizona, for whatever reason, because it's been my habit the last 2 or 3 months. I don't know if Randy has them where he lives, but or anybody else drinks them here. But I'm always drinking the Arizona iced tea, the Tall Boy cans. That's been like my go-to for the last 3 months. I don't know what it has been in the mornings, but when I think of Arizona, that's what I think of. Nothing else. Not the Suns, not the Cardinals, not anything else with the Coyotes, whatever else. But I don't know why. That's what I think about. Arizona iced tea in those Tall Boy cans for $1. Listen, it's $1. You get like 20 plus ounces, and it's awesome. But hey, that's here nor there. But yes, and Jason, Coach Facina of the 5-Town Sound men's soccer team, and Coach, I have the shirt on right now, by the way, if you can see it here. So, in fact, Coach, I'm going to make sure this weekend I go to the store here and purchase a shirt because I haven't got a chance to do it because I unfortunately got yelled at by my mother all day today. So, unfortunately, didn't have a chance to open the checkbook. But definitely, I'll make sure to do that this week. It's the same here except Arnold Palmer. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the Arnold Palmer iced teas. I don't know what it is. That's apparently their best seller, which I have no idea why it is. And Coach is happy to see that I'm in a Love It shirt. And also John Gonzalez. Yeah, still 99 cents. So if you're in 7-Eleven, if you're any little convenience store, bodega.
All cans are delicious.
Yeah, they're the best, man. Listen, that's what I'm going to. It's my jam now. Listen, Arizona
I like the mango.
I like lemon or peach. That's either my two. Fruit punch,
not bad.
Yeah, peach is good. Lemon is like my go-to. But Randy, I want to get to you because obviously I got Rob Maraska waiting to dial in here. So I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to share? Anything else you want to plug? And love having you. Can't wait for next week because something tells me we're going to be speaking more Rangers, more hockey, and as John Gonzalez says, even the Brew Force can afford an Arizona iced tea, which is probably accurate. Randy,
Well,
the floor is yours.
Absolutely. Before I go, hopefully, John, it doesn't come bite you in the butt where the Rangers fall behind and we're tied this time next week, though. Hopefully, we'll see what happens there. So,
I always liked you, Randy. I always liked you.
But just a couple of things, like just looking like the team best players, like for both series, the defense best players on both teams, they need to step up. I'm watching the Zibanejad goal. Victor Hedman, a bad turnover. Talking about Darnell Nurse earlier. They're your best defensemen. I know they're playing hurt, but you got to be – they're both veteran defensemen. Not like they're new to the league. They got to be better here helping out, make those smart plays because these are both the Avalanche and the Rangers are skilled team, and they will capitalize if you turn over the puck, and they will make you pay. Working on a couple of things. We're just finishing up editing an episode I did with Neil Valiano about talking about the New Jersey Devils. A pretty good one. We'll have that released to you by either Sunday or Monday. Other than that, we'll see what happens here. We'll see what happens as well with Golden State and Celtics series as well. Because last night game, that was definitely interesting. Where the Golden State were, they almost came
NBA,
back.
I mean, I'll definitely bring you on next week to do NBA. I mean, if you want to talk NBA.
I'm not a big NBA fan. I like watching it, but I don't follow as much. I'm going to try to get into more. So.
Yeah, the NBA, I always felt the NBA is a very, very fun sport to watch, also live. It's a great basketball, I've always felt, is great live, but also hearing Randy Dillon, who you can also follow on Twitter, Randy Dillon, also hockey fan chat, all the great things that Randy does for us. Looking forward to that show with Neil Villapiano. And I got to ask, do they have Arizona iced tea where you are in Canada?
I used to see Arizona ice cream at a convenience store I worked at 10 years ago. I haven't seen one since then.
Oh, they don't have it. Okay, well, that's a bummer.
Unless I'm not looking properly for it. So.
Well, do they have like Snapple in Canada? Like, what do they carry?
Nestle, Coke, all that.
Okay, all right. So, no, we're not the only ones. All right, fair enough. I had to ask because you know what? I'm thinking about these $1 Arizona Tall Boys, and I'm like, they got to have them in Canada. They got to have them worldwide because they're a great deal. But also, what's a great deal is having Randy Dillon with us and Coach Facina. Well, I also got to mention the Brew Force has invited us to camp in August for the soccer team. So if you're not doing anything in August, we get a chance to cover the team, which I will definitely be in attendance for. But Randy, I can't thank you enough. Looking forward to that show. And we will be back with you next Friday for sure.
Sounds good, everyone. Have a great night. See you later.
All right. And that was Randy Dillon here, of course, from the Hockey Fan Chat. We're also joined here by Rob Maraska, our longest tenured analyst, and John Gonzalez reminds me they have Tim Hortons in Canada. Well, it came from Canada. I mean, so, yeah, duh. They would have Tim Hortons comes from Canada. He's actually a hockey player who played in the NHL back in the 60s and became a successful businessman. But Rob Maraska, obviously, we're transitioning here to some sports. A lot of baseball news here in the last several days. So I want to get to some of that because I think a lot of people want to hear some baseball. And certainly, while I may ask you if you drink Arizona or not, I don't know if you do or not, but I will ask you, I'll ask the gang because I got a feeling everybody's going to have an opinion on it. I wanted to get to the news today that dropped that Joe Girardi is no longer the Philadelphia Phillies manager. Kind of something we spoke about a few weeks back after the Mets miraculously came back against the Phillies on a Thursday night down 6+ runs. And Wanted to get your perspective, Mr. Marasco, on some other things as well, but most importantly at the moment, your thoughts on Joe Girardi, no longer the Philadelphia Phillies manager.
Well, it's a move that the Phillies had to do. Their season is definitely out of control now, and they had to make a move. So you knew it was coming. We saw it coming. We talked about it before, and he just couldn't get it going in Philadelphia. And if you remember, we wanted him to manage the Mets, and now look at where we are. So sometimes the best moves are the moves that you don't make. But he had to go. Philadelphia had to do something, and I don't know if it's going to change things. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. 22 and 29 going into today here. I mean, because of the new wild card, I guess you can still make it. And Justin, I mean, Joe Girardi, no longer Phillies manager. Certainly, it is a blimp on his radar when it comes to his career. Obviously, what a track record as Yankees manager, but never quite really resonated here with the Phillies. I don't know if it was all of his fault. I don't know if it was because of management, the players they surrounded him, but certainly it ends here a rather disappointing tenure here as Phillies manager.
Yeah, I think disappointment is being light. I mean, this is an utter failure. The way they've spent on players, having the fourth highest payroll in Major League Baseball, to be where they're at tonight, and be far back in the National League East on June the 3rd is quite alarming. And I can't put all of that on Joe Girardi, but what I can do is say that somebody's got to fall on the sword. And I think it's probably the next move will probably be the firing of Dave Dombrowski, because you can't sell me his job being safe when he put together this horrendous roster. Now, again, somebody's got to take the blame, and I think a move was necessary at this point. Rob Thompson now takes over as the interim manager. To John's point, yeah, they did spend mostly on hitting, not pitching. But remember, just a couple of years ago, they signed Zach Wheeler. So, it's not, they didn't.
Their pitching wasn't supposed to be that bad a couple of years ago. You had Velasquez and Nola, you added Wheeler. I mean, I didn't think they'd be as bad as they've been pitching-wise. I mean, the Brew Crew pitches better than them.
But their bullpen continues to fail them. And we've seen multiple blown saves over the last couple of days by Corey Knebel. One was obviously at the hands of the Mets, and then, one at the hands of the Giants on Memorial Day. But they're just a franchise with, they're a bunch of square pegs that are trying to put in round holes. And it's just not conducive to long-term success. And they haven't even had any short-term success. So
no, it's a franchise since, the last time they got to the postseason in 2011, which I believe was Game 5 against the Cardinals in the division series, where, if you remember, Ryan Howard tore his Achilles tendon.
Yeah,
and they've
if
never
I'm not
been
mistaken,
the same.
it's the second longest streak in Major League Baseball. Only the
And they've only had one season of over 500 in that run, right? Or one season at 500, or 2 seasons at 500. It just really
they've been bad. They've been bad, and you know what? It's time to shake things up in Philadelphia. So
they definitely are.
I don't know where they're going next.
Well, I know one thing. I'm sure in the Talking Rivals space that it was a big topic with Patrick Trotty and Chris Bazet, and I'm looking forward to getting, Chris, your thoughts here for all of our listeners worldwide here on Sportswire Radio about Joe Girardi, no longer the Philadelphia Phillies manager.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for a couple of weeks now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even on this show, we've been talking about it.
We sure have.
It was just a matter of time and I don't see this team getting any better, even though they did win 10-0 tonight against the Angels. So maybe it was Joe Girardi.
Well, the Angels are in a free-for-all right now. They're in a big free-for-all right now.
They are. Their pitching is starting to catch up. But, I think, listen, there's not many moves you can make with the Phillies either because of their high payroll, right? I mean, what are they going to do? Their pitching is not good, right? Their bullpen is really bad. Like you said, how many blown saves have they had already? And their defense, I mean, they can't play defense at all in the field. So they're just a poorly constructed team. Yeah, they spent a lot of money. And like Justin said, yeah, they got the 4th highest payroll, but it wasn't constructed right, So I just don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what kind of big move they're going to make to change things. And are they going to add a pitcher maybe to the bullpen? They're going to need like 2 bullpen arms at least. So I don't know. Hopefully for them this works because, like you said, they have not been good for a while, and they just spent a lot of money on players this year.
I feel like listen, Bryce Howard. This Bryce Harper. They spent a ton of money on Bryce Harper, right? I mean, he's obviously produced, no question. But I mean,
13 years, no opt-outs.
He's doing his job. You can't say anything about Harper.
But actually, you can. His injury's holding the team back.
To a certain point, I mean, he's still hitting.
Still as a Philly, I mean,
but at the same time, his injury is holding the team back because he's arguably their best defensive outfielder, and he can't play right field for the foreseeable future because he can't throw. And look, Kyle Schwarber is signed to a 4-year deal. Nick Castellanos signed to a 5-year deal. So some of these pieces, JT Realmuto just a couple years ago, 5-year deal.
Yeah, but everybody thought these were the right guys to. So remember, with the Mets, right? Rob Maraska brought up Girardi. I remember being on, when the Sports Report, we were doing the podcast with Rob Maraska and Ernest Stubb. We got to sign Realmuto. We got to sign all these guys. And they did sign him. I mean, Harper, they signed him to the record contract. They signed the guys. I mean, certainly, and John Gonzalez gives us an update very quickly. 2 minutes left. Rangers now up 3-2. So we'll see what happens there. Obviously, I would assume that Tampa's going to pull their goaltender, but the Brewers
he was pulled.
Oh, okay, so clearly, certainly, we have got a very tight game, and certainly, I would not want to be a fan there in Madison Square Garden if I'm a Rangers fan, because that 2 minutes is probably going to be the longest 2 minutes of their life. Now. Yeah, it's going to be. It's gone again. You're going to feel like you're going to go in the bathroom. That's how you're going to feel. You're going to go in the toilet, but we'll see. Certainly, the Philadelphia Phillies, the Brew Force, have gone into the toilet with their franchise over the past several years, and I want to get your perspective on it because obviously you've been through this sort of with the coaching change, obviously with Kevin Span. Again, kind of like Joe Girardi. I mean, came in there with a lot of expertise, came in there with a lot of hype, and it didn't end the way that we would have hoped, obviously, at SJC, then Long Island. But, I mean, can this turn around the Phillies? I can't believe I'm even saying this. Can this turn around the Phillies season? I mean, all of a sudden them changing managers here. I mean, walk me through what your thoughts are now that Joe Girardi is no longer the Philadelphia Phillies manager, and if it was the right move, and can it propel the team that we really don't like into coming back and salvaging their season?
All right, everybody, here we go. Hell no. All right, hell no. Okay, now, let me ask you a question, okay? Can Rob Thompson field? How about can Rob Thompson hit in situations? Can Rob Thompson pitch in the 9th inning? Okay? He can't do any of that. Okay, and last time I checked, the same players are on the field. So listen, when it comes to Joe Girardi, he was just a scapegoat here, unfortunately. I really don't think it was his fault. But I'm going to give you a lot of people whose fault it should be. Obviously, Justin mentioned one of them in Dave Dombrowski. Obviously, he did a horrible job. Horrible. And it started, and yes, I don't want to hear anything from any of you guys. Okay, it started with the Bryce Harper contract. When he signed Bryce Harper 13 years, I said it, and I don't give a damn what anyone says about whether he was the MVP and he does this and that.
Oh, you hated Harper for as long as
I hate him, but there's a reason why. Okay, and there's a reason why. Okay, because he can put up all the flashy numbers he wants. Okay, he does it all himself. But that selfish kid that is Bryce Harper is a terrible leader in the clubhouse. And no one talks about it enough, but he's one of the biggest reasons why they don't win, because he's selfish. He's selfish. He's not a team player. He's all about himself and what he does, right?
That's the year he left Washington won the World Series.
Exactly. Like, look at that. That's the perfect example right there, Justin, right? He goes another place and Washington wins the World Series. That's what Bryce Harper is. And you gave him this long-term, right, a guaranteed deal. Yeah, he's going to have great numbers, and Philly fans are going to cheer him on. That stupid, ugly Philly fanatic is going to bop his head and love this guy forever. Okay? But he's not going to help them win games. That's the point. And that's why I totally disagree with Chris that Bryce Harper's done his job. No, he hasn't. Okay? He's still the same selfish guy, even though he puts up the numbers. He does not get it done, and he's not a team player.
How is he selfish?
How is he selfish? I mean, so from what I hear, and again, I'm not in the Phillies locker room, okay? But this guy, with this guy, from what I hear, all right, is not necessarily a guy who many players like to play with. Okay, now whether I'm right or wrong, okay, I could only look at how they performed and how every team performed under Bryce Harper has been under expectations. Like, I mean, and I saw, and I'm sick of seeing this comparison. Okay, I'm sick of seeing Mike Trout to Bryce Harper because, yeah, all right, are their stats similar in their age and everything? Sure, okay, but here's the thing: Mike Trout is not winning because he doesn't have the team around him. Bryce Harper has had teams around him, but he finds a way to mess it up because he's not the leader and the guy that you can be trusted with.
Bryce Harper can't pitch, to be fair. He can't pitch.
Yeah, this is not a great – I'll admit, I love your takes, but this is not a great take right now.
Well, what I will say, I know he can't pitch. Okay?
He can't
When
pitch.
he was in Washington, though, they had a good pitching staff, and they still couldn't find a way to win when he was there. So he is a big reason. And listen, and I'll say this, okay?
He carried the Phillies team in the second half last year. I mean, he was clearly offensively like the best hitter in baseball last year.
Well,
and he had some years in Washington where, like, I mean, he did the same thing with the Nationals.
Yeah.
I mean,
here's the thing. So, again, he's an individually great player, okay? He's a good player individually, but it's not about individuals, okay? I know he's only can control what he can do, okay? But look at the leadership in the Mets clubhouse and how they're winning games because of the leadership they have, okay? Everywhere Bryce Harper's gone, the leadership quality has been terrible. Okay?
I got a comparison for you. I hear what you're saying. I think I'm with Chris. I don't agree with you on Trout, but I got a better comparison for you before I get to John Gonzalez's comment here about the Rangers winning. If I said to you Bryce Harper is comparable to Carmelo Anthony in terms of their success team-wise, how would you take that? Because that's where I see similarities, so you could make that case where statistically, okay, very, very, very successful players. I don't know if Carmelo Anthony was quite an MVP like Bryce Harper, but he was a very, very elite player in Denver, especially for a long, long time. Never quite won. Had the one team that went to the conference finals with Chauncey Billups, and then had another team with the Knicks that won the division, but by and large put up great numbers. Teams didn't win, whether it was his fault or not. Debatable. If I said that comparison of Carmelo Anthony and Bryce Harper.
That's not a bad comparison. I really don't think it's a bad comparison because, as much as I like Carmelo Anthony, and it's the same thing. Phillies fans love Bryce Harper, of course, for his individual success. And I loved Carmelo Anthony. I have his jersey for his individual success. But from a team perspective, he never made the team better. And neither does Bryce Harper. So, and again, and I know everybody's going to get on, but he does this, that.
Hey, it'll be great for Instagram.
It's about the team.
I can't wait for this to go on Instagram. I can't wait for it to go up.
No, listen, it's about the team. And yes, the roster construction is poor, but you can't tell me right now that the Philadelphia Phillies, and even in the past with Harper, that the Philadelphia Phillies should be under 500 or at 500 with their roster.
I do agree with that. I really thought, and I know we spoke before I get to Rob Moroska in here with the guys, even when Patrick was with us on the streams, and I really did think the Phillies would have been better this year. Maybe I was taking the optimistic approach, and again, I'm not a Phillies fan at all. I know Mike Lipinski, who's coming back with us with the Goal Line Stand Show, is a huge Phillies fan out there in the Philadelphia area. A very, very good friend of mine, a high school football referee in the state of New Jersey. But I really thought the Phillies would be better. I didn't think they'd be 22-29. I mean, Mr. Moroska, I can't believe I'm talking about the Philadelphia Phillies here, but how does this impact then the Mets? Where do the Phillies go from here, and how does this impact the New York Mets?
Well, let me just start off by saying I'm loving it. I don't care what anybody else says, any Philly fans, because the Phillies deserve this.
And why do you say they deserve it? Tell me why.
Because Philadelphia, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to get called out. They have the worst fans. Let me tell you. You go to I've been to Citizens Bank Park a few times, and every time I go, they're like animals over there. They're throwing crap at you.
Bob Rossi, can I add one thing to that actually, because that's such a great point that I want to add this to. Okay, as everybody knows, I was not at the show last week because I was at Mets Phillies at Citi Field.
Yes,
and I was sitting in the section in center field, and there were these 5 baseball little league kids, okay, sitting in front of us that were all Phillies fans, all right, and they were so obnoxious where they were, even when the Phillies were down 7-0, they were going crazy for the team. They were showing us up. They were, laughing in our faces when someone struck out. All right, you're losing 7-0. All All right, I don't care what, this is the influence that Philadelphia Phillies fans have on kids. Okay, the kids should know, especially they weren't that young, okay, but they were young enough, right? I think they still should know, right, that they're losing 7-0. They shouldn't be looking at fans and laughing in their faces when a guy strikes out on the Mets because they're losing 7-0. Like, come on.
Yeah, they are the worst. I mean, about 5-10 years ago, I don't remember how long, I took my stepson to a game in Philadelphia.
Oh,
and
boy.
He's a little kid, and they were screaming at the kid, they were screaming at him. So they're the worst. I mean, they're worse than anything.
Well, I think it's all Philly sports, to be fair. I mean, we've spoken about this in hockey, Islanders, Flyers. I've been to countless Islander Flyers games, and Philly fans are tough to be. I was at 76ers Nets, Justin, famously in the 2019 playoffs, and I can only imagine what the Eagles would be like. But I almost have to ask you, Brad, so what was the ratio of Phillies Met fans last weekend? How many Phillies fans made the trek?
Actually, there weren't many. There were some, and of course they were wearing Bryce Harper's jersey and, whatever. But, listen, the Mets did their job, and we've done our job this year of shutting them up because we've taken advantage of the Phillies this year. And so all that there, I mean, that's part of the reason why Joe Girardi's gone is because of what the Mets have done to the Phillies. I mean, they basically demolished them in 3 series. They haven't lost a series this year on the road or at home, and they've already played.
What have we won? 7 of 9, I think, against them, or 8?
No, 9-3.
9-3, 12 games. So I mean, that's just domination right there. So listen, those Philly fans could chirp all they want, but they were walking home before the game was over when I was there. So whatever. And I'll give those Little League kids credit though. They did actually come back in that game. The final score was 8-6.
Yes,
they did come back. And those kids.
You were at the Carrasco game. Yep.
Yes, and those kids, they stuck for their team. I appreciate that. They just got to watch their tone and watch themselves because they're going to get themselves into trouble talking to Mets fans like that when they're losing 7-0.
Well, I could never stood
I'll
at the
tell
end
you
of the
this:
day.
I didn't
You
have
guys
that kind
are
of experience with the Philly fans.
What was your experience then? I want to hear it. What was your experience over the weekend?
No, I mean, I was the entire section I was in was all Met fans. There were
all right.
So and I only saw maybe a handful of Philly jerseys. It was very pro Mets. I mean, obviously, but I mean, there are the certain teams like Philly, the Dodgers, or Atlanta. You're going to see other jerseys of the opponent. But this is probably and it was less than it was 2 weeks ago, or actually 3 weeks ago when I went on May 1st. There was more Philly jerseys that night, but still small percentage of the crowd. And just like Rob, I've been to Citizens Bank Ballpark, and first of all, the first mistake is you called them fans. I call them animals because they're just like it's an insult to the human race.
Well, did you wear a Mets jersey when you went to the game?
I did.
Actually, I didn't.
Okay, so you might have been okay, Justin. You might have been okay. I got to ask Rob Moroska. You wear a Mets jersey. Tell me why you'd go to Philadelphia and wear a Mets jersey. I'm curious about this. You tell me why.
They come here and wear Phillies jerseys, right? And I don't care. That I'm going to wear it.
They would have knew where you parked the car. They would have had your parking spot number.
So, just a quick note. I guess we're not going to be streaming in Philadelphia anytime soon.
No, I'm not concerned about Philadelphia.
Okay.
I'm number 1 in the UK. England is off limits. Philadelphia, as much as I love Philadelphia, and I certainly don't share the opinions of some of the people here, I can tell you that our base is not in Philadelphia. Our base is in the New York area, some parts of New Jersey, and obviously in Europe. Otherwise, I'm not concerned about Philadelphia. So if you're a Philadelphia fan, I know we have Ted Cheney and his crew from the Rewind Wrestling podcast, but certainly my condolences to you. And John Gonzalez chimes in here. He's got a funny one for you, Mr. Moroska. He says, you were lucky they didn't hit you with a sledgehammer. Yeah, Philadelphia is the kind of place that would do that. I mean, Chris, have you been to a Phillies-Yankees game? I almost have to ask. Have you been to a Yankees-Phillies game?
Years ago, I went to 2 or 3 Eagle games, and one of them was a Philly Giant one, and that was That was great. I mean, there were fights all over the place. You can imagine. So
that would have been interesting. That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
And of course, John Gonzalez, our dear friend, Mr. John Perez here, and John Gonzalez has a comment. We'll get to him, but I want to get to John Perez here first. And he says here, went to Citizens Bank in 2009 with my parish. The nuns got booed out of the stadium. The deacon got hot tied through the aisles. Yeah, I could see that. For whatever reason, something tells me I could totally see in Citizens Bank Park that they would definitely boo the nuns out of the stadium. Why do I feel like that's like real?
I mean, Philly booed Santa Claus.
Well, Michael Irvin, the famous story. Michael Irvin's carted off the field, and Eagles fans were cheering. That was the end of his career. The last game of Michael Irvin's career was, I believe, 1999 there, and he had a neck injury, and he was never the same. And for you, the Brute Force, John Gonzalez has the Brute bases in Detroit. Yeah, absolutely. I forgot about that. I can never forget about Detroit, especially with those Lions fans out there, maybe those Tigers fans. I mean, I was hearing on the Talking Rivals show earlier this week how the guys were speaking about the Tigers, and a big surprise. Everybody thought that they would be a little better, but the Phillies certainly have not been. They are definitely one of the more bigger disappointments here, and we're speaking all things related here to the world of Major League Baseball. And I'll get to the Mets in a second, but I did, Chris, hear you on the Pinstripe Chronicles show, and I did hear the Chronicles guys earlier this week speak about the Yankees, and I do kind of think that Bobby Tats, Rob, and Donald Stewart were right, because on Sportswire Radio, we got to give the Yankees a little bit more love here, because I'm looking at this Yankee pitching staff right now, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but believe it or not, maybe the worst pitcher in this rotation is Gerrit Cole, just how good they've been. I mean, this Yankee team is on a phenomenal run, and I want to spend some time on the Yankees here, because I do think that Bobby Tats, Donald, and Rob are on to something that the Yankees certainly need to be spoken about here for a little while.
Yeah, Cole is definitely not the worst. I won't agree with that. Listen, Cortez has been great.
Cortez, I mean, what a godsend this guy is. And the Yankees let him go in the past. The Yankees let him go in the past.
Twice. That's the crazy thing. Twice they let him go. And he's I think a 36 round. Michael Kay was pointing it out the other day. It's
I heard
it amazing story
yesterday. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, 36 round draft pick. They let him go in the Rule 5 draft, and then Baltimore gave him back to us. Then we traded him to Seattle, and then Seattle cut him, and then we picked him up. It's just amazing. The guy's coming out of nowhere, and he could be starting the All-Star game this year.
I think he might be one of the best pitchers in all of baseball, certainly in the American League. And I heard Michael Kay speak about this during the rain delay, and I'll get some of the guys in here, and John Gonzalez agrees Nasty Nestor has been unbelievable, and I'll even throw in the whole Jim Cott thing just for fun. Right. But, I mean, I can't think of a situation where somebody like this, I mean, Aaron Small's name came up, but it was really like a 1 year.
Wow.
That was for like a couple of months, too. It wasn't even a whole
Sean
year, right?
Chacon, but I really couldn't even think of anybody else that comes to mind that came out. Maybe Rick Reed with the Mets, who that would be one name I think that I was thinking about. Rick Reed. I mean, Mr. Moroz could probably agree with that. That was one name that came to mind. Dave Stewart was a comparable reference. Yeah. I think that Michael Kay made. That was a good one. John Perez says Marcus Stroman in 2020. There is no current Yankee pitcher who will be in my league the next 5 to 7 years. He's right. Tyon, Cortez, and Cole are head and shoulders above Stroman. Well, yeah, I mean, John, that was definitely
going around.
By the way, apparently he's now since deleted that tweet.
Yeah, smart man.
He apparently deleted it today after getting rocked.
Well, we're gonna get to pitchers that have gotten rocked. Also, they got DFA. I really want to speak about them. And
Andy Hawkins was not good for us. So
yeah, but I think his point was that Andy Hawkins. It wasn't after he left the Yankees, had a good career, if I'm not mistaken. Or am I thinking of Ed Winston?
With San Diego, and then he came to us?
I think I have Ed Winston who was mixed up. Ed Winston was terrible with the Yankees and had like another second half. But Andy Hawkins, he was also with the White Sox, I want to say, right? Am I thinking of the right pitcher? Or am I thinking of but yeah, Andy Hawkins.
Hawkins was the guy that pitched the no-hitter and lost, right?
I think that was the one. Then it was they had some weird pitchers at the time here. And also, John Perez also makes a good point here. Giovanni Gallegos has also been great for the Cardinals. Yeah, the Cardinals, again, to me, the Cardinals and the Yankees, they're like almost like maybe not comparable in world championships, but they always find ways to put in players, and they always do well. I mean, am I wrong in making that comparison?
Oh, absolutely. Cardinals, you guys know just, probably a little more because you see them a little bit more than I do, but whoever they bring up is always like a star, a superstar. You know, it's like, oh, they got this young player coming up. Like just now, you got Gorman. They just brought him up. He's been doing great.
Mark Gorman's great.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing how the Cardinals do it every year. They always bring up somebody or they pick up somebody at the trade deadline, and he turns into something even better than what he was on the other team. So yeah, Cardinals are like that. Yankees, it backfires on them a lot with the pitching more than anything else. I mean, we could have a whole list of pitchers that we brought in that just totally collapsed on us. So
yeah, the Yankees have had that,
Joey
unfortunately.
Gallo doing absolutely nothing for us in left field or right field, wherever he is. So,
all right, there. So, I'm having some technical difficulties here. Let me see if I can. There we go. I'm having a little bit of a technical difficulty there, so my apologies on that if you are on Sportswire Radio. And the Brute Force, I do kind of want to bring up the Yankees for a few minutes because obviously I do agree with the Pinstripe Chronicles guys that, I mean, you can't ignore them. Yes, a lot of us are Mets fans here and Mets-centric, but I mean, and we'll get to John Gonzalez and Robinson Cano in a second. There's a lot of baseball talk. So Rob Moroska, hang out for a little while for sure. I mean, but Yankees. I mean, what do you make of the Yankees, and what's your thoughts on this? I mean, this is really, I mean, like again, another big win since 37-15. I mean, this Yankees team. I mean, and they started the season slow. I mean, they're on a run here that, I mean, I hate to make comparisons, but it feels like '98 in a sense, just how they're steamrolling the competition. It's just a special run, and I think that the guys are right, that the Yankees, we should be giving them some more love here on Sportswire Radio.
Yeah, well, as much as we try to ignore them as Mets fans, it's hard to.
See, I don't hate them like the Rangers. I got to be honest. The Rangers fans, they are a little, with all due respect to Rangers fans, a lot of them get annoying. The Yankees fans, if you're a knowledgeable Yankees fan, I always have respect for the knowledgeable Yankee fan.
That's the key. You gotta be knowledgeable. Okay? There's been plenty, especially those that went to high school and some in college who are.
I was in school
I wish I could show them Chris Pizzea just so they could see a knowledgeable Yankees fan and maybe they could learn from him because
sportswire.com/player. That's where they can check out the pin.
Yeah, because some of them are full of nonsense. So what I will say, all right, is okay. The Yankees
you get that in every fan base, though.
Of course, and trust me, I know it's in my own fan base same way, so I understand that. But with that being said, the Yankees are playing obviously really good baseball. This guy Cortez is unbelievable. My sister actually was just at the Yankee game the other night with her friend and almost saw Tyone throw a no-hitter, which was pretty cool. You got Garrett Cole, you got Montgomery. I mean, this is a good rotation, and the one thing that I've said to Yankee fans over the years is the one thing I've always been concerned with is their starting rotation. I mean, they've had the hitting, they've had a good bullpen, but the rotation's always been the same.
Last year we were on the air, and John Perez's comment I'll get to in a second, but I mean, their rotation, I remember we were saying during the shows when we were live, we really weren't that confident in them. Now the rotation's like damn good.
Yeah, every time I in the past, Tom, when we talked about the Yankees, I always said, they have great hitting and, they have all the assets except for starting pitching. That was the one thing I always went to and said, if they can fix this issue, then they're going to have more success especially in the playoffs. We always knew they were going to make the playoffs, right? But it was about the playoffs and if they were going to win in the playoffs. And certainly this rotation, right, is proving to do that. And it looks like a rotation that could really get the Yankees far this year. I mean, they've done a great job. The bullpen's still strong, and the lineup obviously has been great. And listen, we bashed Aaron Judge right before the season about that contract. He looks like he's worth more than that. He's proving it. So, right now, the Yankees, everything's going right for the most part. Yeah, there's little holes here and there. You guys talk about Joey Gallo, obviously, is a big issue.
Every time I listen to the radio overnight, and this was so comical, and Justin will appreciate this because he was blocked by Sal Licata on Twitter. There was a guy, it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. I think it was like 2 or 3 days ago. He actually purposely called Sal Licata to talk about Joey Gallo being better than Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani in one game. He said he was better. Yeah, it was. I have to say, it was very, very 4 o'clock in the morning, right? So you're thinking you're outside, you're in the middle of nowhere, you're like listening to it, and all of a sudden it was like really, really interesting radio, I have to say it was very, very enjoyable to hear Sal Licata get worked up about Joey Gallo being better than Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout. But the guy was trying to say, well, he was 2 for 3 and he made a great play in the outfield. And, that was 4 o'clock in the morning. It's the witching hour.
Oh God! But here's the thing: you guys know I like to get worked up and have my passionate takes. But no, a statement like that doesn't even deserve my energy or anyone's energy. Okay, to talk about, because that's just absolutely ridiculous. Anyone would have brought that up. But listen, when it comes to the Yankees, there's nothing bad I could say about them. I really do think that right now they're the best team in the American League, and I think that right now, they're on their way to potentially being in that World Series. I really think that they're the team that I look to right now to represent the AL, because I don't really see a team playing as well as they are.
You stole my thunder. I'm going to get to the guys here and ask that question in terms of the postseason in a second. And John Perez says, agree with Tom regarding Rangers fans. Having said that, I can't wait to go to the parade in a few years. Well, they still got to beat Tampa. I know it's 2-0, but they still got to get through the series against Tampa Bay. They haven't played in their building yet. I mean, listen.
I won't do that. I won't be talking about no parades. All right, that's always.
And you know this, Brad, from covering St. John's and obviously St. Joseph's, New York now, and John with John Jay. I mean, I know I'm very superstitious with teams. I don't go that far. And Joe Dell, of course, who provides this music on Sportswire Radio, he's also in the party, says, go Rangers. I mean, we'll see here about that in terms of championships. But Austin Romine got released. Rumor has it the Yankees will bring him back. Before I get to Robin Ross, any thought on that, Chris?
Maybe for AAA depth, because, I mean, we do need an upgrade at catcher, between Trevino and Higgy. Trevino's been playing great. He's actually hitting too. But Higgy's not been hitting at all. After having that great spring training, everybody was like, oh, my God, he's going to be great for us. And he hasn't hit a home run yet for us. So, I don't know. Romine, I could see maybe signing him for AAA in case one of these guys get hurt or something. So that's a possibility. But
maybe a roster expansion down the line, you get something like that. Maybe.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, if he would take a minor league deal, why not? I would sign him for AAA.
Well, speaking of players, I'm going to get to in a little while that got DFA'd. I do want to bring up, but I want to get to Robin Ross because I know for him it obviously pains him to speak Yankees, certainly as a Mets fan. But I mean, I think it's time to give the Yankees some due because we spend so much time on the Mets here on Sportswire Radio, obviously because a lot of us are Mets fans, but I definitely do think that the Pinstripe Chronicles guys are spot on because they're 37-15 and they continue to find ways to win. And I almost have to ask you, I mean, for this Yankees team, I know it's still early, still about a third of the season through, but do they have to go deep into the postseason after a start like this? I mean, I know it's so early still, but I mean, walk me through because obviously this team is definitely going to be in the postseason once again.
Well, I think, they have to go deep into the postseason because, they're just not going to – the fans and ownership are going to go crazy if they get knocked out in the first round, So, I feel that they do. I mean, it's early now, yes. But, yes, they do. But I wanted to bring something else up. The past couple of years, we've been talking about Boone and his job being in trouble and when are they going to get rid of him.
Yeah, we've spoken about it, yep.
What's going to go on. I think that talk is put on hold right now, the way the Yankees.
Yeah, I haven't heard the Pinstripe Chronicles guys. Chris, you were on the show last week. I haven't heard any mention to Boone anymore. It seems like it's now he's doing a great job.
Of course. If they're winning, no one's going to complain about him, right? But here's the thing. Even I would say with Boone or any manager, all managers, they get too much of the blame when they lose, and they get not enough credit when they win, right?
Yeah, I've heard that expression a lot, sure.
So, and I think this is perfect with Boone. They're not going to give him credit for winning. Oh, no, this wasn't because of Boone. The players are playing great, but when they lose, it's Boone's fault. But, like, no, it's because the players are not playing up to what they should be playing. It's as simple as that. I don't think he's made, like, someone asked me today, like, I categorized Boone. I was like, I don't think he's lost any games for us. Maybe he hasn't won them either, but I don't think he's lost any games for us this year. At least that's to me. I don't think he's done a bad job.
Well, they've only lost 15 times. So to be fair, listen, they've only lost 15 games so far.
Right. I'm not saying he's manager of the year either. I'm not saying he's this great.
Well, they lost one series in the last month and a half. The White Sox series last weekend. They've only lost I think one series in the last 20 or something,
Yeah,
whatever it
they only
is.
got, I think, and they said they have the best home record. They've only lost 7 games at home so far. So I don't know. Listen, I think it goes both ways. I mean, if you're going to criticize them when they're losing, you got to give them credit when they're winning too. But I'm not gonna say he's manager of the year just because they're the best team in baseball. They have a really good team. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, it's early to even think about
Yeah,
those
exactly.
awards. Way early. I mean,
I
listen,
don't buy into that.
Yeah, everybody was praising Joe Madden 2 weeks ago, and now the Angels are in like a total.
Right. Now he's the worst
free-for-all.
manager in baseball.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, listen. I mean, who knows really? I mean, the Red Sox were dead and buried, and now they're catching up here a little bit. I mean, so it's hard to say, but I mean, I do Justin. I know on the baseball banter, I'm sure we'll hear some Yankees talking, and I did want to give them some due here. And 37-15, and they've definitely taken care of business. I mean, they've been pretty much good with everything except, I would say, Aaron Hicks and Joey Gallo and maybe catcher. Otherwise, even then, it's hard. You can't still even argue. Listen, they're doing it without Hicks, without Gallo, and really
without a third of their lineup doing something for them.
I mean,
right?
I got to say, I mean, this Yankees team, they're impressive. They're impressive.
Yeah, I'm shocked that they're doing this good. I'll be honest.
Really? You're shocked? So you didn't think
Well,
they'd be...
No, I would think if the whole team was playing well, yeah, I thought they could be a first-place team and winning the division. But they're playing basically with like a third of their lineup, giving them nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing. Gallo's batting what? 1-2?
Oh, my God.
It's an embarrassment. It's horrible. And Hicks, I mean, I think he's just under 200 as well.
Oh my God! I mean, if you put Gallo and Hicks together, would you get like a good baseball player? I mean, I'm almost ready to almost make that joke.
You'd probably get a worse
because neither one can hit. Yeah. Gallo gives you good defense at least.
Could we use him on the Brew Crew, the Brew Force? Could we use Gallo and Hicks on the Brew Crew?
Honestly, they might be sent to AAA.
Tell them they can keep the cooler cold and keep the right.
And John Gonzalez reminds us that
that's all they can do.
Kiner Falefa has 12 RBIs.
I think he's got more than Hicks and Gallo.
Yeah, what did Gallo have? 7 RBI, right? 6 or 7
like
RBI. And
this is good timing because here's a little bit of Yankee news right now.
Give me some news. It was like news here on Sportswire.
They have optioned Miguel Andujar to AAA Scranton Wilkes-Barre.
Okay, that was something I was hearing overnight on the radio. That was a topic.
Stanton's coming up tomorrow.
Yes, because they also reinstated Tim Locastro from the 10-day IL, but they optioned him to AAA as well.
Okay, yeah, he'll probably stay down there for a little rehab or something. But yeah, it's a shame because Andujar's been playing great. He's been hitting the ball, and surprisingly, he's actually been handling left field pretty good. He's actually worked on his defense a lot the last couple of years. I don't want to say I was shocked, but I was pleasantly surprised how well he was playing left field while he was up the last week or so. So it stinks for him, but like I was saying on the Spaces, and I was even talking to Patrick last week. I see a move coming for the Yankees. There's just too much. There's too much. There's too much going on, and there's too much negative with Gallo and Hicks. I mean, giving us absolutely nothing. So I definitely see a move coming. Probably not for a couple more weeks, right? Because teams are not really ready to move yet. Maybe Cincinnati is, or
Cincinnati. It's funny. You remember a couple of weeks ago how we spoke about them, and they were like, what was it, 3-20? They've actually played really well.
They're playing pretty good lately. You got to give them credit.
Maybe they heard us on Sportswire Radio. Who knows? I mean, everybody was.
Oh, they heard it from everywhere. I think, not just here.
Yeah, well, no question. I was hearing it all over Talk Radio, so maybe that's what it was. And John Gonzalez had said they always send Andujar down. I mean, I almost have to piggyback.
It's a numbers game.
Yeah.
It's a numbers game. He's got minor league options. They're going to use them.
Exactly.
And thanks to the crack staff for pulling this up. So actually, the comparison going into today's action with Hicks and Gallo and Kiner Falefa, combined Gallo and Hicks, 14 runs batted in. 5 home runs and 7 RBIs for Gallo. 1 home run, 7 RBIs for Hicks. Hicks is actually hitting .214. Gallo is hitting .177. 56 strikeouts in 130 at-bats for Gallo. So,
and you know what? In Hicks before the season was saying he was going to go 30-30 this year.
Well, I mean, you know what, Hicks? I mean, he had one good season for the Yankees. I'll say he had one good year, right? 27 home runs, I think it was.
He
Like
stayed healthy.
Yeah.
But after that, he was hurt all the time. And
the only thing I'll say in defensive, Hicks, the contract in terms of money per year, it's not like the worst in the world. It's not.
It's like $10 million a year, but it was
yeah.
a
I mean, the
7-year
Brewers
deal.
brought up Bryce Harper. I mean, it's not anywhere near that. I mean, it's nowhere near even Lindor contract. It's really in baseball terms, it's not that bad. And
No.
John Gonzalez says the Pirates just swept the Dodgers recently. Now that's huge. Well, the Mets are playing the Dodgers, so if you want to segue into that, and I'll get into Robertson Cano in a second. I mean, so I'll let Mr. Maraska jump in before I get some of the guys' takes in here. I mean, Mets predictably here going on the West Coast, and the Mets have been on quite a run. Not much to complain about. Certainly last night, lack of offense, and continues here so far. And is it time now where the Mets hit a little bit of a bump in the road here, Mr. Maraska? Give me your thoughts.
Well, this is the trip that was going to be the test, and so far the Mets are not hitting. They're trailing 2-0 right
Top of the
now.
fourth, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and they just the bats they're not doing anything. We knew that this trip was going to be hard, definitely. I mean, the Dodgers, the Padres, we knew this was going to be hard, but the Mets, they just have to get into the swing of things on the West Coast. The West Coast always screws the Mets up. And, last night, all right, maybe they were tired from traveling and everything, but again today, the bats are dead. They have to do something. They got to start hitting against the Dodgers.
Yeah, I mean, certainly you can't win without scoring runs. The name of the game is to score runs, and so far the Mets haven't done it. And just in a sense, it's kind of interesting because John Gonzalez makes a good point. Pirates sweep the Dodgers, so naturally the Mets come into town, and maybe this is what the doctor ordered for the Dodgers. I mean, give me your thoughts on this.
I mean, this team's just pitching out of their minds. I mean, we saw last night the performance from Tony Gonzalez. And then coming into tonight, Tyler Anderson, 6-0 with a 2.90 ERA over 49 2/3 innings. I mean, this Dodger team just pitches the lights out of the baseball, and and what I thought could benefit the Mets is the fact that the Mets are not a team that's reliant on the home run. They're good at stringing hits together and scoring runs that way and creating big innings, but the Dodgers haven't allowed them to really put together a big inning, and it's kind of prevented the Mets from doing what they do best. When you're not reliant on the home run. I know you have Alonso. Lindor can hit some out.
Yeah, kind of.
But they're not a team that's going to outslug you by hitting 6 home runs.
They're a contact team. The Mets, McNeil.
They're gonna get their base hits. They're gonna be aggressive, and they're going to score runs that way. But so far through the first 13 innings of offense, there's just been nothing. And on one hand, you would like to tip your hat. I mean, they have one hit tonight. On one hand, you like to tip your hat to the Dodger pitching, but at some point, come on, let's go. Got to get it going.
No question about that. And Joe Dell chimes in here and makes a good point, which I've always kind of thought about, at least as a Met fan. I haven't been a Met fan as long as everybody else that's been a Met fan going back to the old days, but history has shown the Dodgers always a thorn in the Mets side. Hope we don't see them in the playoffs. Well, 2015, to be fair, now I'm thinking about it.
06.
We did win, yeah.
The last two postseason series, the Mets have beaten the Dodgers.
But generally, in the regular season, if you are the Mets, you generally never play well in Los Angeles. That's kind of a house of horrors. But listen, it's a West Coast.
The Dodgers over the last 28 meetings with the Mets, the Dodgers are 23-5.
That's in general or just in Los Angeles?
All together.
I could see that. Well, the Dodgers have been good.
They went 6-1 last year, and the game the Mets won was the last game of the second series.
No, I mean, listen, totally.
But you guys beat them in the playoffs.
2015.
And 06.
Yes.
So since then, it seems like, since then you guys have had problems with them? Is that it?
First of all, take a step back. The Dodgers, the last few years, have been like the best team in baseball, right? The
Yeah.
Mets have struggled. So you
Right.
said 23-5. Yeah,
Yes.
that makes sense. What do
Yeah.
you play a team 6 to 9 times a year? And add it up. That's 3 to 4
Six,
years.
yeah.
2020, you didn't play because of COVID.
Right.
So ultimately, at the end of the day, that certainly makes sense. And Joe Dell says since 1980. Although to be fair, we did just bring up 2006 and 2015. So 1988 is kind of in the rearview mirror. And I'll get to Chris in a second. But the brute force, I mean, Mets are on the road here. I know we spoke about it a couple weeks ago when you were last on, and also we've got some more comments about Dom Smith. I'll get to Dom Smith in a second. I do want to get to all that here. But, I mean, are you concerned the Mets could be getting into a fork in the road here, or we've built up too much cushion between us and the rest of the division? Give me your thoughts.
Well, this is kind of an interesting take I'm going to have here because I'm going to kind of waver a little bit from side to side. All right, because there's one side of me that's saying, yeah, I mean, we did our job on the homestand. We swept the homestand against the Phillies and the Nationals, and we put ourselves in a great position to be able to kind of slide a little bit here because even if we lose a couple games in this series, we're still going to be in a good position going to the next one. With that being said, we have the Dodgers and the Padres coming up, and I want to close my own ears when I say this because Mets fans are not going to want to hear it. It's June, ladies and gentlemen. It is June.
I always say it for the past few years. The Mets historically in June, it's been
the month of June has been an absolute disaster for the New York Mets. And you just want to skip the month at this point. Just skip it because it's just been that bad of a month for the Mets. But I do think that, with the roster that we currently have, and first of all, what a great way to start the month when we go out to L.A. and our star shortstop hits his finger on the hotel room door and gets hurt. But he's luckily in the lineup today. He's all right. But that's just kind of what June does to the Mets. It scares you. It makes you cringe. That's what June does. But ultimately, I think that if the Mets can just simply find a way to play close to 500 baseball on this road trip, that will be perfectly fine. I do think that, listen, the Dodgers are a tough task. They have, like Justin said, they have their great pitching while we're putting out our secondary pitching against them. So we're not
we
putting
don't
out
have our two starters in DeGrom and Scherzer, so it's all secondary from here, right?
Right. I mean, listen, and give credit to our pitching. Taijuan Walker pitched well again yesterday. He didn't get noticed for it, but he pitched well. Bassett's pitching good today so far. That's a good sign for the Mets because he hasn't pitched that well in his last couple starts. You got David Peterson giving you innings. Trevor Williams pitched well the other day against the Nationals. So our rotation's holding it down, which is what we need. But like the guy said, the one thing that's concerning, and yes, you give credit to the Dodgers pitching, but our hitting has been basically non-existent in the first two games. And the one thing people will say is, well, Brad, you were hitting against the Phillies and the Nationals. Those teams didn't, have the greatest pitching, but now you go against good pitching or great pitching, and now we're not hitting. But I would say, listen, it's one of those things where, the Dodgers deserve some credit. They're pitching well. I think the Mets will break out of it at some point. Maybe not tonight. We'll see. Hopefully tonight. But when they do, they'll be fine. And I think, like I said, 500 baseball, stick around. You may lose the series to the Dodgers. Maybe.
Well, if you go 500, and I'll get Chris in a second. Brad, if you do go 500 in the West Coast trip, or even the month of June, I'd be very happy with that. I think most fans would be extremely ecstatic by that.
Oh, 100%. And that would be amazing. I mean, considering that by the end of the month, right, you get DeGrom back, hopefully, and then we get Scherzer. And then
I heard a report that there actually might be the possibility he could come back by the end of the month. Anybody hear the same thing?
Yeah, there's a possibility. I know they're not going to rush him, but there is a possibility. So you also get a guy like McGill back soon, hopefully. So there are some pieces on the way. And I think, like I said, the Mets just have to hold it down. If they lose the series to the Dodgers, at least maybe split with San Diego. And I think, going into the Anaheim series, you find a way. Maybe
that's the series I feel good about right now because they're really
At first, maybe a couple weeks ago we talked about that series, we weren't feeling as good, but now we are. So
they could. I gotta be honest. I'm gonna throw everybody in the discussion here, and I can't believe I'm doing this because I still feel like he's gonna have a cushion here still. But if the Angels continue their swoon, is Joe Madden in trouble there for anybody here? Anybody have a thought?
Actually, I don't think so.
No, you tell me why. You tell me why.
It's a patient group, Artie Moreno has been pretty patient. And they got the new GM in there over from the last couple of years, Perry Mincy, and I think they're still in a decent spot despite the 9-game losing streak. And you figured they snap out of it at some point. Maybe they win a game or two. They still win a game or two this weekend against the Phillies, but I still think in the long run they're going to be okay. They're going to bounce back at some point, but I don't think we're quite there at the Madden on a hot seat.
Okay, but his track record also has been very similar to Girardi so far.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair to say.
I'm not advocating for anybody to get fired.
Right. But
I'm
just saying, I think Philadelphia ownership group seemed to be a lot less patient than the Angels ownership group.
Well, even after the season they had this past year, we kind of felt like Girardi, he was one of those managers. I remember being on here. I mean, for anybody else here, does Madden in trouble or still give him time?
I agree with Justin. I think it's just two different places. Philadelphia, like you said, from the beginning of the year, Girardi was on the hot seat. I don't think Madden's on the hot seat yet. I think he's safe for the season no matter what happens. So I agree with Justin on that.
You gotta be kidding me.
Me too. I'm the same way. I think he lasts this year. Listen, if they have a bad year, let's say if they miss the playoffs or they're below 500, he'll be on the hot seat, I think, going into next year, especially if they make some moves and, add whatever they're going to add to that team. But, I think Madden's built up some sort of leeway a little bit, especially this is the first year there again, right?
He was there. I thought this was his third season there.
It's his third already?
Third, I believe.
Yeah, he's been there because he got the job. The reason I remember this is because, and we'll get to the update here with the Dodgers in a second. The reason I remember is because I interviewed Mark Gubicza in 2019, and by luck, the week that I interviewed Mark Gubicza, who's now on the Angels broadcast team, was when Joe Madden got hired, I'm pretty sure, for the position back in November 2019. So that would make it year 3.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think Brad Ausmus only lasted 1 year.
Yeah, the owner is another guy who spends a lot of money and really hasn't had much to show for it over the past several years.
I'm going to say this. What was the peak? Like, how many games of over 500 were the Angels? What was the highest they got to?
Was it 10? 9?
This year? Close to 10, right?
Yeah, definitely close to 10. Definitely close to 10. Absolutely.
So here's the thing, right? Right now, as we talked about, they're on the free fall. What happens if they really free fall and you end up being like close to 10 games under 500 by the break? I think that calls for a Joe Madden firing potentially. Do I see them falling that far? No. But I will say the way they're playing right now, it could easily happen where they could be under 500 in the blink of an eye, and then things could fall by the All-Star break, and that might be the end for Joe Madden. I think it could happen.
You know what? Wouldn't surprise me. Would not surprise me one bit, and thanks to the crack staff for giving us this here. Angels peak 27-17. They were 10 games over 500. 3 different times here throughout the season: 22-12, 24-14, 27-17.
And now they're only 1 game over.
Yeah, well, I don't know. And John Gonzalez says, listen to this. I heard a Philadelphia sports reporter mention that the Phillies had interest in Terry Collins.
Oh, my God. Okay.
Is that a joke? Or am I supposed to go, but I'm bump?
Is there a joke here, or was he actually listening to WIP?
They took familiar. I mean, they might as well take Collins, too.
Eesh.
Terry Collins, I mean...
He could probably be like, you know what? Maybe I won't go there.
I
like being in the studio.
Am I supposed to take that serious?
I'm pretty sure SNY...
He's not kidding. John Gonzalez says he's not
kidding.
SNY is paying him to be on some shows. I think he's all right.
I mean, he took the Mets to a World Series. I mean, I guess he could be a candidate. I mean, he ain't 80 years old. I mean, La Russa's still got a job. Dusty Baker. Yeah, I guess Collins would here, and it's 4-0 Dodgers. I see here now. Does anybody?
Yeah, Zach McKinstry 2-run homer. So a pair of 2-run homers for the Dodgers tonight. Cody Bellinger got the party started, and now it's McKinstry. Playing the Dodgers is just absolutely miserable.
And John Gonzalez points out Collins is 73. Yeah, I guess. I mean, do you really think the Phillies would bring back Terry Collins? I feel like I don't know. I don't know if that's the name.
I don't think that's the move they'll go. You know,
Joe Dell says they can have him. Good-hearted manager, though. Yeah, I mean, but it's Philadelphia. I don't see Philadelphia bringing in Terry Collins. I mean, I will tell you one guy who's available. I'll make everybody laugh here. Apparently, Mickey Callaway got fired in the Mexican League. That's going out there. I mean, so Mickey Callaway's available. I mean, Brad, does the Brew Crew need a manager? Because apparently Mickey Callaway's available.
We don't need no damn Mickey Callaway. Listen, I actually think Mickey Callaway and Bryce Harper would work pretty well together. Their two personalities would go real well. I think that's actually between them two and the Philly Fanatic, they could work together pretty well. So Mickey Callaway, that's right.
The Philly Fanatic should be the next manager there. Can't be much worse, right?
He should be the Fanatic.
Justin has a funny comment about Mickey Callaway, and I can't put it on the air here because
I read. That's why the comment went through.
I can't repeat it on there because we got in trouble. Was it last week with Brick Marcus Cumbrian Outlaw? And I think I told the story last week on the air where he actually said the curse word, and I was like, Rick, I gotta take you off. I gotta boot it out. I mean, I can't have it. He's like, oh, I forgot. Then he repeated it again. So it was like, he's like, listen, then he said his line was, well, I'm a wrestler, and they compare me to Stone Cold in England. So what'd you expect? And then he was on his best behavior. And John Gonzalez, we didn't have, you know what? I thought about it, but the second time I got it. So it was okay. But John Gonzalez says the Marlins brought in Jack McKeon. He was 82 and they won the World Series. Yeah, I mean, but that was like such a short situation. What did he manage the Marlins for? Like 2 years? Right? It was like maybe a year and a half.
I think 03, I think just the end of 03 and into 04.
Yeah, I think that was like a transition.
05 was the year Girardi won Manager of the Year.
Yeah, 78 and 84, and then they replaced him. So I think Freddie Gonzalez became the manager next, right? Right after that, am I missing something here? I feel like was it Freddie Gonzalez? But the point is, Jack McKeon definitely was kind of.
But I think those days are over. Hiring the old managers, I don't think you're not going to see that anymore. You know,
I don't see Collins doing that, but being the Phillies manager. But speaking of things that John Gonzalez did bring up, which I did want to mention for everybody, is that Robinson Cano looks like he's on the market. So I mean, the Brew Force. I got to ask you because obviously I keep bringing up the Brew Crew here because maybe you guys need player roster spots available and. Obviously, wanted to get your thoughts on Robinson Cano, and I posed this question, I think, in the Sportswire group on Twitter, and I had asked if it's the end of days for Robinson Cano in a big league uniform. I ask you because I'm sure we'll post it on Twitter. I mean, what do you think about Robinson Cano? Is this the end of Robinson Cano in a big league uniform?
Yeah, this is what I'm going to say. Hasta la vista, Robinson Cano.
Were you practicing that one?
Adios. No, I wasn't practicing that. I was just ready for it. I mean, listen, he's done. He's done. There's no more Robinson Cano. I remember Rob Maraska a few weeks was joking. We were talking about the Seattle trade, and he said if the Padres win the World Series, the Padres might as well win it because they have Robinson Cano. But Robinson Cano is no longer there. And it's just, listen, he went there and he did the same thing he did with the Mets. Didn't hit. They couldn't put him anywhere, really. And he wasn't producing. So, listen, that's just been an absolute abomination when it comes to Robinson Cano, and his, career as a whole, I should say. I mean, like we said, when he was a Yankee, we thought about potential Hall of Famer, and then, it just went downhill from there. And now I don't even know what he is at this point. He's a good player at best, a player that was good for many years. I mean, that's sad to say, but from somebody who was as good as Robinson Cano was at one point to now where he's falling down to, and now there's no chance. I mean, you want to talk about being on the Brew Crew. I mean, I don't even know if he's going to hit on the Brew Crew at this point. I mean, that's why it's hard to hit those softballs. I don't even know if he could produce.
Much Major League Baseballs, and imagine him with the softball.
I don't know. I mean, listen, we haven't been hitting the socks off the ball, but I don't think we need no Robinson Cano. I think.
He hit 094 with the Padres. I mean, Joey Gallo hits better than him even. Who would have guessed that?
Exactly. I think we'd rather have Joey Gallo. You want to give us somebody who's Joey Gallo.
At least he got 5 home runs and 130 at bats. At least he's occasionally hitting a home run.
Right. So just like John Gonzalez said, I like to give John Gonzalez credit when he's 100% right.
Spot on. Cano is done.
Cano is done. 100%.
He's done too. Anybody else have a different perspective here? Is Cano done or what?
He's got to be
done. He's done. The Padres took a chance on him. That's it. He showed what he's got left in the tank. He's on empty. Gas is now $5 a gallon. So it's done. It's over. Gas tank is empty.
Think about it. Who needs a left-handed bat that doesn't hit? Because he can't play the field anymore.
And was it Justin that posted the stat that his bat is down something like 3 miles per hour or something like that since 2020? Somebody posted a stat. I saw it somewhere on Twitter. Somebody else. Maybe Billy McInerney did.
Maybe I retweeted something like that.
Yeah, somebody posted it in the Sportswire group, and that to me speaks volumes that in 2 short years his bat is down so slow. And Joe Dell.
By the way, fact check, Rob. Gas is about $6 a gallon in San Diego.
That's right.
Well, you know what? Well, listen. I'm glad that I'm not in San Diego. And Joe Dell reminds us that Casey Stengel was in his 70s. He knew a baby's first words were Metsy. John Gonzalez reminds us that Dusty Baker, Tony La Russa, they're not hiring old managers. But I think that's an exception, though, because their track records are far better than Terry Collins.
Absolutely.
I mean,
even Buck Showalter, who's not as old as those two, but Buck is 66 years old. But it's the track record that's better than.
Well, Dusty Baker, has won 2,000 plus games. Tony La Russa's won 2,000 plus games.
Hall of Fame.
I like Terry Collins, but he doesn't have that kind of success.
No, he doesn't.
No.
I don't even know if Terry Collins has a winning record as a big league manager.
I don't believe he does.
Dusty Baker and Tony La Russa, they're Hall of Famers, and one already is a Hall of Famer. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with any of that there. We'll certainly see. I'm not going to oppose Terry Collins for getting a job, but I did want to, speaking of old guys real quick, and I know people always like when we bring these things up, and that's kind of this whole Nestor Cortez and Jim Cat thing. I didn't even realize that Jim Cat is 83. I really forgot that he was that old. I didn't realize he was 83. Speaking about guys, I don't even know why he's broadcasting at this point. I thought he retired anyway in the past.
I thought so too.
But apparently he put a statement out there, and Nestor Cortez, I think, shared his thoughts on it. Should he even said what he said anyway to begin with? I think he was trying to be funny, but maybe
he was trying to be.
I don't know in what way that's funny. I don't know what the hell his issue is.
Couldn't he have said like Nestor the Gator or something like that, or like Nestor the quicker upper or something like that?
Nestor is the best nickname for him right now.
Yeah, I don't even want to repeat what he said because we're a family station on Sportswire. I can't repeat it. You can look it up on Twitter. But it had to have just been, all he had to say was like Nestor the Gator or Nestor the Alligator. The thing is, he
apologized right away, and Nestor accepted it, posted it, boom. So it's like,
is it really? And I'm going to ask some of the guys here.
Not racist or anything.
I don't think it was racist, but it was kind of like that old man, like I didn't realize the word, what it meant.
Oh, yeah.
Something here.
He's old school. It's tough on these older broadcasters to remember what they can't say because they were allowed to say a lot of this stuff for their whole careers. And when he was a baseball player, those clubhouses were a lot different. So, he's old, 84, which I didn't realize either because I remember seeing him pitch. So that means.
Yeah, well, he started his career, I think, I have a Jim Cat baseball card. I know somewhere, like 1959, right? 1958 or 59 or something like that. He had a long career. Brad, you make anything in what Jim Cat said? I feel like I just figured I'd throw it out there just for fun before we transition.
I really don't have much of a comment on that nonsense.
That's probably the best comment.
This is all I got to say because I know one guy that's going to really agree with me on this, and that's Justin Gianelli. Okay? All right? The commentary in sports right now, we're spoiled as Mets fans, with some really good commentary. Just listening to Sunday Night Baseball, okay, might be the worst thing. The worst thing I've ever heard. I can't even put the volume on for that. We need to step up our game. And I know that's an older commentary, but right now the current commentary in a lot of sports, especially on ESPN, for damn it, stinks. It's awful, okay? I honestly think they should just hire us at this point because we're much better than anything they're displaying. It's just a travesty and an embarrassment to listen to the Sunday Night Baseball crew. They are absolutely horrendous.
You don't like David Cohn, though?
I don't mind him, but it's not about one guy. It's about the whole group. The whole group together it's just
I've
not
gotten
good.
lucky. I've gotten lucky because I don't watch Sunday Night Baseball if it's not the Mets, but I've gotten lucky that the 2 times the Mets have been on Sunday Night Baseball, the game's at Citi Field, so I'm there.
You were.
But I'm not going to be so fortunate next Sunday night when the Mets play the Angels in Anaheim.
Oh.
No, that's true. And Joe Dell says Sportzwire crew is the best. I appreciate that, Joe, because sometimes when I go live or our DJ, because we have a now added time slot for our newest DJ, Thomas Clark, from over in the UK, will be playing his favorite music between 8:30 and 10:30 p.m. British Standard Time. Our new favorite DJ, I like to play some of Joe Dell's music and some music before I can break it up for a nice little 20, 25-minute block. And John Gonzalez says, yes, hire the brute, but remember, brute force, we're doing the Lions. Hey,
I'm ready.
Steelers, I'm looking forward
December 18th. I got it in my head.
Now, I actually want to bring something up because I didn't get a chance to post the clip, so I might have just throw it out there. And Chris had actually brought this up with John Gonzalez, and Chris had asked John Gonzalez, since he comments in here so much, and obviously he's a big part of us with his support with the Sports Authorities group. Chris actually went on the record and saying, John Gonzalez, why don't you join us on the camera for the stream? So I asked the brute force, what would your thoughts be on that if John Gonzalez were to join us here on the video one of these days?
Well, let's just put it this way. We're already very entertaining to begin with, so we don't really need much more entertainment. But I think if there's somebody that's going to bring even more to the table, that's definitely going to be John Gonzalez. All right. You really see, a battle between me and John Gonzalez on the show, which I think people would really love. So, listen, I think
he's got 4,000 members in his group. I'm sure if he posted it physically himself.
What I will say, though, as a coach, we always say this, all right? Be a star in your role. That's what we talk about. And John Gonzalez commenting into the show is actually him starring in his role. He's one of the best comments always on the show. He's got.
Yeah, we have. I think it's Carlos Arturo Chavez. I think.
Where is Carlos? After last week,
where was Carlos? I was kind of wondering about that. We usually have Carlos. Joe Dell is now with us once again. Anthony Finkel is usually with us in between work breaks or whatever else he's doing. Coach Vecina comes in. Gordy Esso once in a while, but usually have Carlos with like a whole bunch of comments. And I have a guy, Daniel Slavin, who's texting me, but doesn't want to come on here. But there's usually certain people that pop in, but where is Carlos? But yeah, John's great. So you're saying, John, you want on or not want on? Because you're saying he's great at his role, but would you want him on the video?
Oh, come on. You're asking me that question? Of course I want John Gonzalez on here. Of course. Listen, I want everybody on here. Right? Besides
we can only fit 10, by the way. We can only fit 10.
But besides like some of the nonsense people that I talk to, like some of the James.
Where's your friend? Where is Jason Getz, by the way? I'm kind of waiting. Where is he? Is he on a baseball diamond right now?
They actually, so he is on a baseball diamond. They just lost in the Nassau County A championship to Calhoun High School. They were in the championship. They lost in a 3-game series. So I'm looking to see him soon, but he did have a good season. But, those kids, listen, they got a lot of nonsense. They talk a lot of nonsense. John Gonzalez, the one thing I respect about John is that he's got some of the funniest, greatest comments, and he knows what he's talking about. So he is definitely well worth being on this show, and I would be so happy to see him.
Well, apparently he says, thanks, Joe Dell. So I don't know if that's an acknowledgement. I don't know if that's a nod. I don't know what it is, but he says, thanks, Joe Dell. So I don't necessarily know if that's a confirmation or a denial. So that's up to John Gonzalez for that to decide. So, that's his call. But obviously, if we could have Evan Wetzel on here, who's been on here in the past, if we could have some of those Pinstripe Chronicles guys, and they were like, oh, well, we got to come back on. Well, Bobby Tats is usually fishing every time he's not at a Yankees game. Donald, it would be 4:42 his time, and I think Rob works. So, I don't really know what else. And we try to bring people on here. Patrick was with us before. He had work issues. Billy McInerney pops in every few weeks. If somebody from the team wants to come on, Randy Dillon does hockey with us when we have hockey. So we try to bring people on here from Sportswire Radio as much as we can. We give everybody the shot to do that. But obviously transitioning before we get out of here in a little while, I did want to transition very quickly to Rob Moroska in baseball. And Mr. Maraska, because I know you're a huge Mets fan, obviously it's going to be an interesting week for the Mets. I'm still kind of skeptical on this West Coast trip. The Mets fortunately have built up a lot of cushion, and I do agree with John Gonzalez a little while ago as he had said that the Braves might be the only team that the Mets are worrying about. I still believe the Braves will come back in here. But Mr. Maraska, we're going to transition away here to a few thoughts on basketball before closing thoughts and get out of here soon. What's your keys here for the Mets between now and next Friday?
Listen, like Brute Force said before, if the Mets play 500 baseball in the month of June, the disaster month of June, I'll be happy. They just have to keep doing what they were doing against the weak teams. Now they have to do it against the Dodgers and the Padres and the Angels. They have to get base hits. They have to knock in runs. They don't rely on the long ball. We know that. They just have to knock runs in, like we've said the past couple of years, and they've been doing it. The pitching is fine, even though the top two pitchers are out, but they're coming back. So they just have to hold it down. They got a great cushion right now. But we remember what happened last year: 85 days in first place, and then
it was a long time. I mean, Mets
that's a long time. That's almost 3 months, and then here came the Braves, and that could happen. We don't know what's going to happen when Scherzer comes back. We don't know.
Scherzer, I still feel like, and I feel like for whatever reason, I trust Scherzer more than I trust DeGrom because I don't know what to expect from DeGrom. Scherzer, I feel like the injury is not related to pitching. I feel like he's a gamer and he'll be back. I don't know about DeGrom. I haven't seen DeGrom in a year. I don't know what to make of him.
Yep.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. I mean, they're up there in age, but we'll see. If the Mets could just keep playing the ball they've been playing against the weaker teams, if they could play 500 or better in June, they'll be all right. But yeah, you got to watch out for the Braves. They're the one team in that division that can catch the Mets, and we saw it last year, and it could happen again this year.
Yeah, the Braves still got a good team. They definitely still have a good team. And Jodell asked, when is Scherzer and DeGrom coming back? Now, Brad had said the end of June is a possibility with DeGrom. I even heard one report that the Mets may just wait till the All-Star break. Yeah. Scherzer, correct me if I'm wrong. Anybody can, feel free. I heard right around July with Scherzer. Was that what I heard?
Yeah, that's what it's sounding like. Apparently, before I think when they just arrived out west, Buck gave some updates on the pitchers. And Scherzer, first of all, apparently he's already been throwing a
He's a gamer.
Bit.
I tell you, Scherzer's a gamer.
Yeah.
I got full confidence.
And his timeline was 6 to 8 weeks, and we're just past the 2-week mark. So I mean, there could be, if he's feeling well, I mean, you could honestly see a rehab start within the next 2 weeks, which gives him another 2 weeks of ramp up to get back to the big league level. Given that everything with the oblique is healed, and he's comfortable going out there again throwing. As for Jacob DeGrom, he was supposed to be with the team on the West Coast trip, but they're keeping him behind in New York, and he's apparently ramping things up and could throw a bullpen session before the West Coast trip is over. So he's starting to get himself ramped up, and he's probably going to need four or five rehab starts, like a full spring training type of rehab starts before.
That's what I heard with DeGrom.
See him again. So I'm still looking at early July, maybe. I would say hold to the All-Star break, but the All-Star break's a little bit later this year. It's the 19th instead of the 12th. It's usually the second Tuesday in July.
Yeah.
But if you could get him back in the early portion of July, that'd be great. And then Tyler McGill, who has been out, he is set to start, and I think throw about 4 innings on Sunday for AA Binghamton. So it will be, and after he's done with that, how he feels and if they feel like he needs another rehab start, there's a chance he could pitch Friday in Anaheim.
you know what? And I'm going to hang on to baseball for 2 more minutes here. And Joel says, I'm digging Carrasco. Yeah, Carrasco, listen, his whole problem last year was he couldn't pitch in the first inning. I mean, after the first inning, he was a serviceable pitcher. And his
I
track
think what
record was
happened,
good.
you know what, and to go off of that, I think what happened with Carrasco is the injury just set him back so much. You know, he had the torn hamstring in spring training, and then he had to have surgery to remove bone spurs from his elbow. You know, the fact that that's gone, he said that this is the best he's felt probably since his rookie year. So Carlos Carrasco has been really nice for this team this year.
Let me ask you guys this question. This could be for everybody because the Yankees, maybe they would be interested, although I don't even know why at this point. And the Mets, there is still maybe a void for it, but I did want to bring this up, and anybody can give a thought on it. And that's obviously the news last week of Dallas Keuchel being DFA'd by the Chicago White Sox. And this was the last thing I wanted to bring up on baseball, and this could be for anybody. I mean, would anybody want Dallas Keuchel, whether it's for the Mets or the Yankees, for anybody here? Do they want to just stay away with him similar to a Robinson Cano? Walk me through anybody's thoughts on if Dallas Keuchel interests you as a Mets fan or a Yankees fan.
As a Yankee fan, right now we don't have a spot for him. Right, he can't take a spot in the rotation. Is he going to work out of the bullpen? Probably not. If he was okay with taking a AAA contract, I would do that. But other than that, we really got no room for him. So I would say no.
And John Gonzalez says if the Mets make a move, it'll be for either Montas, Blackburn, or Malley. For you guys here, for the Mets fans, Dallas Keuchel, I know the back of the baseball card is glorious. It's prolific, but obviously this season and last season was the complete opposite. But would you guys want to take a feeler on a Dallas Keuchel, or you stay away with it like the plague?
I would go with what Chris said. If he would sign a AAA contract, because that's not gonna hurt, and see how he does there. And if the Mets, the Mets are in a different position right now than the Yankees with these injuries. So AAA contract, yeah, why not?
For Brad or Justin, any thought?
I tend to disagree with Rob a little bit because I think he's good, but I think he's going to look at the Met rotation and say, "Why would I go to AAA? I could slot in right now," and I just don't think it's worth it. I just don't think he's good enough anymore. Trevor Williams has been serviceable. He's been okay. David Peterson's been pretty good when called upon. And, like I mentioned with the – geez, that's got to hurt. Nemo just got hit in the back. Lost my train of thought. Thanks.
Well, Dallas Keuchel definitely makes that happen for you because I don't really think he's the right fit for any team at the moment because watching him with the White Sox, the Brew Force, and I think he would have had trouble pitching to teams that the Brew Crew plays because certainly his numbers were just scary. I mean, they were like – what were teams hitting, like 400 against him? It was like the opponent's batting average was
pretty
like
bad.
I mean, he went from a few years ago,
year.
like, what a fall from grace. A few years ago, I remember him with the Astros, and he was like lights out. He was a great pitcher, and all of a sudden now, I mean, I don't even know if anybody would take him, let alone the Brew Crew.
Yeah,
the Brew Crew all night.
I don't know, but I'm going to reference this for the second time tonight. Hell no! All right, I'm going to say it again. Okay, no Dallas Keuchel, okay? And I'm going to finish Justin's statement because I'm pretty sure I know exactly what he was going to say. Because Tyler McGill's coming back. So why do we need Dallas Keuchel, all right? I mean, Trevor Williams for now has held down the fort. He'll probably make one, maybe two more starts, all right? And then you'll get McGill back, and then you'll be fine. I mean, and listen, and people are going to be like, well, maybe he can still slot in. Well, I personally think that David Peterson is a much better pitcher than him right now, at this given moment, right now. Maybe not career, obviously, but right now, he's a better pitcher. And he's proven he can pitch. So I wouldn't take it. You got McGill coming back. You'll have DeGrom and Scherzer. I wouldn't take it. And Rob Moroska said it. If it were to happen, which I really don't think it will, it would have to be a AAA contract. He would have to join Dominic Smith down there and, get his act together first. But I personally, people are going to say we need him. I really don't think we need him. I think we're fine. And I think McGill coming back will help us solidify a five-man rotation. for the time being.
Okay, and certainly for you, the Brew Force, John Gonzalez says, I would sign. I'm thinking of managing the Brew Crew. You guys have a manager? I've never asked you this in these 2.5 years. Have you had a manager?
No, so one of our players is quote unquote Kyle Supran is technically.
I'm glad it's not Jake Guggenheimer. It's not Jake.
It's not Jake. No, Jake just focuses on playing the field and raking at the plate. He don't got to worry about the managing. Kyle worries about the managing.
Kyle looks like a manager. I could see that with Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle's also the pitcher. So a lot of those guys coach baseball, so they all kind of have managing experience as well as I do in basketball. But but listen. I mean, we don't really have a manager. I mean, I guess if John Gonzalez wants to come to Long Island every Sunday morning, I mean, maybe we'll take a manager. But I think honestly, maybe I'll take it. Maybe he'll bat me in a good, better part of the lineup that I like. So I'm still satisfied where I'm at. But maybe John Gonzalez will put me in that cleanup spot. I'll be happy.
All right. Well, we'll certainly see
next week.
I'll certainly see what happens here, and I'll say one thing. In fact, Rob Morosky, I'm just going to keep you on here for the last 20, 25 minutes, Ryan. It makes no sense to just say goodbye because we're going to end here soon anyway. But I will say one thing for Dallas Keuchel. I'm sure Mr. Keuchel will definitely be occupied because if you don't know, his wife is actually MLB Network reporter, host Kelly Nash. So certainly Mr. Keuchel isn't doing too bad off the field. If anybody has seen now Mrs. Keuchel. So certainly I'm sure Mr. Keuchel will be not bored at all. So certainly good luck to him. We'll see if the Mets are a fit or anybody else here. And John Gonzalez says the brute force is my DH. Yeah, well, you've played first base in the past, right? So that makes sense.
I played first base. I also, a few weeks ago, played the outfield. Did a pretty good job. So John Gonzalez, I can be an outfielder too,
Well, we'll certainly find out. I'll tell you all those things here are all exciting things to think about. And before we get closing thoughts, I did want to the Brute Force get your thoughts on the NBA Finals here very quickly before we move on here tonight. And certainly, again, it looked like to me, I come home last night and the Golden State Warriors felt pretty confident about winning that game. And the Boston Celtics had maybe one of the best 7 or 8 minutes of stretch I've seen for a road team in a game one of an NBA Finals in a fourth quarter in a long time. And these Celtics, you just can't put them away. I mean, they've had quite a run here. I mean, certainly with the Celtics, and I've talked about him, and of course, our old friend Matt Hurd has got to be very, very happy these days. He's got to be getting ready to go on a trip to San Francisco here very soon. So walk me through this, and is it very well possible? And Joe Dell says Lindor needs to start earning his pitch. Yeah, but Lindor's – I was on Lindor like 2 weeks ago, but Lindor, to me, has got like 40 RBI right now. Where have you been?
He's got a streak of 10 straight games with an RBI.
Yeah, he's been hot.
Yeah, no, Lindor's actually going to wind up knocking in 100 runs. He's on a pace for it, and John Gonzalez wants to hear it. So the Brute Force, I mean, he doesn't like the Celtics, and are we in for the Boston Celtics? Maybe going on a run here for another championship? I mean, what do you think?
Well, I mean, listen, we talked about Philadelphia fans earlier, but now we could just transition to another fan base that I know Chris Bezea is not fond of, and I'm not either, and that's Boston fans, all right, because the Boston Celtics traditionally, for me, have been probably one of my most hated teams. And it's one of the reasons why is because, for some reason, I know so many damn Celtics fans from New York, for God's sake. I mean, you get out of here at this point, Matt Hurd, all right? And by the way, I'm going to reference Matt Hurd soon, so stay tuned for that.
Good.
I got something to say about him. But listen, when it comes to his Celtics, he should be happy. My assistant coach at Plainview JFK, Joe LeRae, is also a big Celtics fan. He was extremely happy. I was not, because I picked the Miami Heat to win that series, but Miami was depleted, and even with that, the Celtics almost gave the Miami Heat the series if Jimmy Butler would have made that shot, but he did not.
Yeah, so that fourth the Celtics, I was waiting for it, but yet they won.
Yeah, so listen, you know what? They won. They're in the finals. And, you know, one thing that I can't deny about the Celtics is, you know, and I reference this all the time. When we were back years ago and the Knicks and the Celtics were both kind of in, you know, the garbage pail, I'll say, where, you know, the Celtics had lost Paul Pierce and Garnett, and the Knicks were just about ending that Carmelo Anthony and Stoudemire spot. They were both in a really bad spot at that point. And right now, you know, years later, you just look at what the Celtics have done, building this young core and getting into multiple conference finals. Now they're in the finals. And this core of players, when you talk about Jason Tatum being a really good player, Jaylen Brown being a really good player. Marcus Smart, obviously, the defensive player of the year. As much as I like to call him Marcus dumb, he's not dumb. He's pretty smart. So, he's playing good basketball. Robert Williams. But the key guy for game one was Al Horford, the veteran. Al Horford was absolutely unbelievable. He's hitting threes.
Al Horford.
And you talk about a guy in Al Horford that was with Boston, signed with Philly, didn't work out there, ended up getting to Oklahoma City, and then came back to Boston, and he's been nothing but a huge piece for them. He's hitting threes. He hit big shots in the fourth quarter. He was their leading scorer yesterday with 28. He did so much, and he defends too. And the one thing about the Celtics that's scary, since we talked about this, is their defense. They have so much length and athleticism and ability to block shots, ability to just be rough riders on defense. That's what's scary about them, and they did that in the fourth quarter. They won the fourth quarter 40-16 after Steph Curry in the first quarter was on fire, hitting like 4 threes. They basically shut him out to only like 13 points on a couple threes the rest of the game. And, we talk. The one thing about the Warriors that we talk about is, they got to be able to make shots at the end of games. And the Celtics have trouble closing out games too. But the one team that closed out for game one was the Celtics. So I think that it's going to be a challenge for these Warriors. I was picking them to start. But after seeing game one and the way the Celtics were able to still withstand Golden State's runs and Golden State's ability to score and come back in the fourth quarter and play as well as they did and take that lead and take over that game, it's going to be scary because game two, it's almost like a must-win for Golden State. They don't win game two, they're in major trouble, and I think they're in trouble already because the Celtics are lethal, and I arguably think that they are more lethal on defense for the Warriors than they are on offense, and they still have a really good offensive game. And like I said at the very beginning of this show, Tom Bryce, we talk about Gerard Gallant with the Rangers. Ime Udoka has been unbelievable with these Celtics. In year one, has figured it out. It didn't get off to a great start, but the way he's figured it out and got these guys playing together.
They had momentum. We spoke about it going into the end of the regular season. They had the momentum, and they carried them all the way through. Look at how they played against the Nets.
And the one thing the last thing I'll say before I hand it over to Justin is, look at the teams the Celtics had to get through to get to this spot. They had to get through Brooklyn, right? They had to get through Milwaukee, who were the champions last year. They had to get through Miami. That was a really good team, coached by a really good coach. And now they're here with Golden State. Well, Golden State got through a depleted Nuggets team, got through a Memphis Grizzlies team that lost John Morant, right? And then they got through the Mavericks with Luka Doncic and really nobody else. So they have had the easier road while the Celtics have had the harder road. And the Celtics have defended. So as much as it really hurts me, you guys could go to my Instagram and check one of my first posts I ever put.
20.
Yeah, one of the first posts I ever put out was a logo of the Celtics saying Celtics suck. That's how much I hate the Celtics. Okay, but as much as I hate them, and John Gonzalez 100% right early in the show, I hate the Yankees, but I have to give them credit when credit is due. And the Celtics are playing really well, and they are legitimate. I'm really thinking about changing this pick because the way they looked in game one, I'm not so sure the Warriors are going to win this one. I think the Celtics might.
Yeah, they might. Justin, I could see you shaking your heads here before we move on and get closing thoughts from the gang.
For other reasons, though.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, by the way. I'm assuming bad news for the Mets?
No, it's not a game in L.A. without a beach ball finding its way on the field. Come on.
I always never got that. Why would you go to a baseball game and throw a beach ball? I never got
that. Yeah, that makes no sense.
Throwing it on the field.
It's like the wave. When people do the wave, I never got why would you do the wave? I remember going to an Islanders game once for whatever reasons. They did the wave. This was at the Barclays Center, by the way. I remember for whatever reason, we were up 4-0 in a game once, and all of a sudden people started doing the wave. I'm like, why would you go to a game and do the wave here?
Stranglehold people on Sunday for doing the wave.
I just don't get it, man. But are the Boston Celtics, is it their destiny here from what Brad's saying? Or maybe Boston won't win?
God, it's going to pay me to say this. Yes, it is. God. The last thing I need is another Boston team winning a championship here. But, just look at the way they clamped down. The fact that Steph was hitting everything in the first quarter. And
he was ice cold in the fourth quarter. That whole team, I'm watching that game.
And the Warriors hitting everything in the first half, and the fact that they were still trailing. Boston was still up by 2 at the half. I mean, just told you all you need to know about the series and how Boston as a team is just better. I mean, they might have Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, two shooters who can go absolutely insane at times. That's all well and good, but I mean, the way they clamped down on defense and the way they clamped down on defense in that fourth quarter, I mean, it's going to be so tough to beat Boston. I mean, I still think it's going to be a 6-7 game series, but
John Gonzalez. That's like how we went on a rant, or I went on a rant about
Wow.
Philadelphia. So it's kind of like John Gonzalez and the Boston group members.
Don't worry, John. You got Detroit still.
there you go.
Ooh, well, that's
With none of their 4 sports teams close.
And
to
Pittsburgh,
them.
right?
Yeah, well, Boston has the luck. Listen, the Celtics are always in it. You got the Bruins that are always in the postseason. Although it looks like Boston Bruins may finally drop a little bit. The Red Sox have won
there's
several
tough
World
news
Series
there.
of note. The Patriots, let's not even get there. And John Gonzalez, of course, says Motown. So for Joe Dell, who might be watching, listen, for the music reference, yeah, Motown for sure. But yeah, listen, we'll see what happens. Obviously, a lot to talk about here. We'll speak more about that on next week's show when it comes to the Celtics and certainly the Warriors. I'll also have a thought on Al Horford, which I'm going to save for next week for Brad because of time purposes.
By the way, happy birthday, Al Horford. He is 36 today.
He's 36. You know, I was thinking about that because he's been in the league about 14 years, right? 14 or 15 years he's been in the league. So that would make sense. Al Horford is old man Al Horford, 36. So that means that definitely would make a lot of sense. Certainly coming up, I think, on 1,000 games in the league, I'd want to say. Definitely going to be an interesting name, which I'll say for next week about the Hall of Fame. If you look at his career, that's going to be another one of those Dwight Howard type guys. Does he get in? But we'll speak about that for sure next week and certainly in the offseason for sure. Also, we'll speak maybe some NFL. We'll get into some Rangers, I guess. Certainly much, much more on baseball. And John Gonzalez says Warriors might be in trouble. Yeah, well, that's what we
Very
just
fair.
said. So, but I want to get to closing thoughts here. And let me go to Chris here first on closing thoughts. And Chris, obviously, always enjoy hearing the Liftoff Jets. Episode 53. Now we're on Talking Rivals. Coming closer to the big 5-0, also a big space that we had here. A lot of momentum from the shows here, talkingrivals.com. But I want to give you the floor here, some closing thoughts, anything you want to share. Feel free to plug and promote. And can't thank you enough for all that you do for us here on Sportswire Radio. And I can't thank you enough. And the floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you, Tom, for everything you do. Guys, another great show as always. We had a good time. Just looking forward to this baseball season. Keep going the way it's going. Especially for the Yankees, as good as they've been playing, it's pretty amazing. Crossing my fingers, no major injuries, and so far we've been okay. And just looking forward, man, to this month. This month, got some big battles coming up, so looking forward to it, and just kind of scratching off the days until camp starts for the Jets, so we can get into some NFL talk. So. Looking forward to both things. Remember, you can catch me on Twitter at CP7NY. Catch at Talking Rivals, Liftoff Jets, at Liftoff Jets. And Monday we'll probably give you the Talking Rivals, and then Liftoff Jets will probably be on Wednesday.
Fantastic. And I see your tweet here now that Brett Musburger is out as Raiders play-by-play man. Definitely surprised on that. Definitely very interesting to see who will fill that role in that void. Brett Musburger. I mean,
Finally.
a legendary. And what's the finally for the Mets, I would hope, right?
Pete Alonso just hit one 5,000 feet.
Well, hopefully it gets us on the
A-Ron.
board here. And Brett Musburger, I will say one comment to make everybody laugh. And John Gonzalez, Rob Maraska, and Chris Bizet will probably get this. If you were a kid growing up when ESPN Classic was kind of in his infancy days, for whatever reason, every time I would turn on ESPN Classic, I always felt like it was a Brett Musburger game, whether it was an NBA, CBS game or an NFL game or whatever it was. I always felt like Brett Musburger was on ESPN Classic. So John Gonzalez says Brett Musburger is 95. He can't be 95. Is he really 95?
No,
I have to check. I'm checking that before we get to the guys' closing thoughts. Because now I'm curious. If he's 95, I would say God bless America.
Is he?
He's 83. He's not 95.
When was the last time you made an inappropriate comment about somebody's girlfriend?
Brett Musburger? What, yesterday? I would assume.
Probably, right?
Probably yesterday. That was a trick gotcha. I would assume yesterday.
That was the Alabama kid, right?
It was McCarron, I think.
Yeah,
It was McCarron's girlfriend.
1939. So he actually just turned 83. So I guess happy birthday, Brett Musburger, and
enjoy
enjoy your.
retirement, maybe, right? At
It
83.
could be 83. Yeah, I mean, you know what? He looks like he's 83. So 95, I would have agreed with you, John Gonzalez. But I'm going to go with Justin Gianelli for closing thoughts here. Justin, I'm going to give you the floor. I know baseball banter, new shows will be on the way here in the near and distant future with the weekend coming up here. Hopefully, we'll get some more good stuff from you. Also, enjoy all you do for us. Really enjoyed the Neil Villapiano Devil's State of Mind show. I listened to that like 3 or 4 different times. But listen to a lot of New Jersey Devils talk lately. I'm not even a Devils fan, but I seem to enjoy it. And John Gonzalez says, God bless him. Okay, great stuff there, John. But I want to give you the floor, Justin. Anything else you want to plug, share? I can't thank you enough. And the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Thank you guys again for another great Friday. Yeah, I recorded the baseball banter on Wednesday, and my dope never even sent it to you, but it's
That's
up.
okay.
It's up on multiple platforms. It was more of a special in regards to the Johan no hitter 10 years later. So that was kind of cool. Sunday I'll be recapping the big Dodger Mets series. Hopefully it turns a little bit better, and hopefully maybe they can make a comeback tonight. If not, go for to try to grab a game tomorrow and see if we can get a split, but who knows? Interesting of note. We're coming up on a 20-year anniversary of the Darryl Kyle passing. If anybody remembers Darryl Kyle, the former starting pitcher for the Cardinals.
Astros also pitched for Rockies.
Yeah, but he was with the Cardinals in 2002, and actually, it was in Chicago when he passed away. So where are the Cardinals this week? They're in Chicago, and for the first time in 20 years, they've issued the number 57. Right-handed pitcher Zach Thompson was called up. Apparently, they have held the number one to make sure that they didn't just hand the number out to anybody. So they have a true special feeling about this kid, and there were some pretty chilling comments from Albert Pujols. Albert obviously was a teammate of Darryl for the first 2 seasons of his career in St. Louis, and it's crazy that it's been 20 years, but I just was surprised that if they waited this long to if they kept it out of commission that long, I was surprised that they brought it back. So I just thought that was an interesting little nugget from the Cardinals. But so those are my thoughts. You can follow me on Twitter at JGNLE12 and at bballbantersm for the baseball banter page.
Very, very, very sad news. And Darryl Kyle, of course, former 20-game winner, know him with the Houston Astros, had a great year there. Colorado, again, one of those guys that got the big contract in Colorado. Didn't work out, but in St. Louis, he turned around his career. And unfortunately, speaking of deaths here, I will break it for those that are music fans before I get to closing thoughts from Rob Moroska and the Brute Force Brad Weiss. The legendary artist Ken Kelly has passed away, dead at the age of 76. And according to John Gonzalez, he was found dead in his hotel room. And certainly, if you're a Kiss fan and you saw some of the cover work for the albums like Destroyer, Love Gun, he was definitely a big part of that. And again, he worked on a lot of different things here. He was a very, very close friend with the likes of Peter Criss and certainly Gene Simmons, and he spoke quite a bit about them in the past. And again, I know if you're a music fan, you're definitely a Kiss fan. I know there's a lot of people that are still members of the Kiss Army, and certainly no question that even Manowar used him. I'm looking at here, Coheed and Cambria. So if you know them from a more modern time, and definitely, I've always felt album art is very important when it comes to the world of music or anything else, because we have artwork here at Sportswire Radio. So I do want to certainly extend condolences to the fans of many. And Joe Dell also points out also for Sleepy Hollow. I didn't know that Ken Kelly designed Sleepy Hollow music. Of course, Joe Dell with the legendary Sleepy Hollow. I did not know that. Did I forget something? I just didn't know that Sleepy Hollow's artwork was done by Ken Kelly. I mean, Manowar, I definitely knew of Kiss, obviously, but 76. So definitely, Joe, I said it on Facebook, but I'll say it here now on the radio. My deepest condolences to you. So sorry about that. Again, 76. And obviously with Daryl Kyle and he says Sleepy Hollow legend cover. I didn't know that. I don't know if there was something I missed on that. I apologize, but obviously he was from Connecticut, dead at the age of 76. Ken Kelly, legendary album cover artist work, did also comic books and many different things. So certainly want to give our condolences to the family and many, many fans and friends, of course, and Joe Dell, our own from Sleepy Hollow. And Rob Maraska, I know we're going to try to follow that up, but I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share? I can't thank you enough, and the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, it's been a pretty fun week for Met fans on Twitter with ex-Met pitchers who have big mouths on Twitter who have been getting bombed, Stroman and Thor, and a lot's been going back and forth, and I've just been laughing at the comments.
I don't feel sorry for them one bit either. I don't feel sorry for them one bit.
So that's been kind of funny. But other than that, the Mets just have to, stay afloat in June, and everything will be cool. The Braves are ahead right now, or they won. It was flash. I don't know if they won.
Oh, it's typical. The Braves are now going to win like 6 or 7 in a row. Just watch. They're going to get hot all of a sudden. It's going to be within 5 or 6 games, and we're going to start panicking. You just watch.
So that's where we're at. But if you want to reach me on Twitter, it's at @rmaraska. And on Facebook, Rob Maraska, and another great show, guys. And it's been my pleasure.
Absolutely, and enjoy all of that from you. And Joe Dell says he was there for me when I was going through my divorce, cheered me up, and gave me hope. Yeah, that's how it always goes in life. I mean, that was one of the days I had today for whatever reason. My mother was yelling at me because she was buying a new table, and I had the old table, and I had all my stuff on there, and I'm a hoarder, and I'm a bad human being. And the kind of people like Steve Saperstein, like to Ken Kelly, to Joe Dell, were the people that help us get through. But obviously, we certainly, most notably, don't even want to compare, but give our condolences to Joe Dell about Ken Kelly and John Gonzalez. Says another great show, guys. Good to see the Brute Force back. Because the Brute Force equals Rays. Without the Brute Force, I mean, who knows where we would be? I mean, but the Brute Force, we certainly didn't save the best for last, but we definitely saved the biggest for last here. And I'm going to give you the floor. I know there'll always be monumental and impactful closing thoughts here. So I turn it over to you, my friend, and certainly let's shine away from some of the deaths we talked about here, whether it was Ken Kelly and Daryl Kyle, and let's get back on track here on a lighter note. And I turn it over to you, my friend, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, Tom, thank you for another great week of Friday Night Live. I'm happy to certainly be back. Thank you, Chris, Justin, Rob. Another fun week with you guys. So it's great to be back, and I look forward to many more great weeks of the show. You can follow me on Instagram at bwise20, on Twitter searching bradwise20, and then also on Facebook you search me Bradley Weiss. Now, what I started the show with talking about, I have to go back to because this is where I tie in my good friend Matt Hurd. All right, ladies and gentlemen. All right, as I referenced earlier, I have the shirt on today. We won the Adult League for the second straight season with Level Up Long Island. Give a shout out, of course, to our program director, Jesse Winter, who led us with close to 30 points last night, amongst others who had a great performance, as well as myself getting a few minutes. We won the championship. We're back-to-back winners in both the winter and spring seasons. We are resuming in the summer next week, and our first opponent, Tom Bryce, is the Golden Eagles and Matt Hurd in the men's league with us. Yes, the Golden Eagles are playing in the same men's league as we are. They're putting 2 teams together of 8. Matt Hurd is with one of them, and Spencer Malloy has the other, and they're consistent of all the players from SJC. So we're playing both of them the next couple of weeks, which is going to be fun for me going against the current St. Joe's players. So
Spencer Malloy, Matt Hurd, I'm assuming Timmy Hurt's playing, Ryan McNeely.
All those guys, Tabitha, you go down the list. They're consisting 2 teams of 8. So we're going to play both of the teams. Next week we're playing
Nick
Matt
Nemec
Hurd.
was on the team?
Yes, I think Nick's going to be on the team next Thursday. We're playing them next Thursday, so when I come on the show next week, I'll have a lot to talk about when it comes to playing the Golden Eagles on the court. As a
somewhere so I can get my fix of Golden Eagles basketball coverage?
Listen, we're going to have to see if somebody's at the game to try to give you updates. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait for it. It's going to be fun.
Is Troy and Gordieso and Heenan going to be in attendance?
I don't know if they know about it yet, but I damn sure know that they're going to know
now because we're going to share it on Instagram. So
that's right. So they're going to know about it. And speaking of those guys, the month of June will mark our first games that I'm going to be playing with Coach McSloy and Coach Heenan. So we're playing in another men's league out in Northport. I'm going to be playing with them. So that's going to be exciting as well. A few weeks ago, I also got to coach against Billy Heenan, and I got the win. So I am looking good right now when it comes to my my alma mater in St. Joe's. I'm getting the wins, and hopefully that continues next week.
You're getting more wins than when you were on the court there for us.
Well, I'm on the court as in a different capacity now. I'm starting to win there.
So we're winning
two straight championships with the Level Up Men's League, and of course, if you don't follow us already, we're a tremendous AAU program here on Long Island. You can follow us at @levelup_LI. We're doing tremendous work. We have so many great coaches. I'd be here all night giving them all a shout out. So make sure you give us a follow on Instagram and other social media pages. Now to get to the LI Brew Crew. Yes, we are back. And last week we got a sweep over at Eisenhower Park. We played on Memorial Day weekend. Yours truly hit a triple, a single, and also got on base, I believe, another time. I don't know what happened. I think it might have been an error that I got on base. But either way, I hit the ball. It was a good week for the Brew Crew. All right. And, a triple felt pretty good. I don't normally triple. So I got her on the bases a little bit, got some running in. But the Brew Crew got a 2-game sweep. We're back in action this week against a team called Tsunami. We'll see how we do against the Tsunami. I guess it's supposed to be scary. But, Brew Crew is starting to formulate back. Brendan Fitzpatrick is back with the Brew Crew. And he told me last week he's ready to come back on the Sports Report. So certainly.
I'll tell you what, we'll definitely. My schedule finally becomes a lot more clearer after Thursday of this week upcoming. So
yes.
We'll definitely be happy to bring him on. Definitely.
Absolutely. And that segues me in, ladies and gentlemen, to what potentially could be coming. Because we've referenced this a few times, and it's almost that time. We're getting to that point where Tom Bryce is going to make his trip to Long Island. So we've rumored that that's going to happen next weekend. We'll see. We're going to keep all of you guys posted.
We'll definitely
all of
give it
them wants to see Tom Bryce. I'm telling you, they all want to come and see him. So, and the All-American Burger is waiting for you.
Well, I'll tell you, they probably want to see me much more than where I'm living right now at the moment. I can guarantee you that. In the whole cubicle I'm in right now, they definitely want to see me more in Long Island than the person that I'm living with at the moment. I can definitely assure you of that note. But obviously, anything else you want to plug and share?
That was basically it. I will reference our Plainview basketball as well. We're also in the playoffs in the spring league. Got a nice win the other day against Jericho. We're playing on Sunday in the second round against Glen Cove. So, again, there's much more and so many great things, but you can follow me on social media and you'll find all the latest in what's going on. So I can't thank you guys enough. I will be back next week. And like Rob Morosky, everybody else said, let's hope the Mets get their act together, all right, and turn it around here. Hopefully get a 500 road trip for us so we can be happy and go back to Citi Field because I'm ready to go back and cheer on my New York Mets.
Oh, I'm sure you and Justin are going to one of these days be sitting next to each other. And again, everybody can follow the Brute Force at BWeiss20 on Instagram, BradWeiss20 on Twitter, also Facebook at Bradley Weiss, Snapchat if you care to. And Mets are down 4-1, bottom of the seventh, 2 outs. And John Gonzalez chimes in and says, Tom is a legendary sports figure. Well, we'll certainly see it. In England, I would agree with you. In England and wrestling, that's where I partially agree with you. But certainly, I do want to make the announcement here. First, a couple announcements before we get out of here. We are going to have on June the 13th here, up-and-coming basketball star who's playing at, forgive me if I pronounce this wrong, Finlandia University. That is Jacob Dadashvili. And Jacob was obviously at one time a recruit over at Five Town Sound for the men's basketball team. So Jacob has reached out. We're going to bring Jacob on here Monday night, the 13th. I'm looking forward to speaking with Jacob. Jacob's had an interesting journey to get to playing basketball. He is now a D3 player, comes out of Queens. Local kid, was at Five Towns, and things didn't work out, but now he is on his way to playing at the Upper Peninsula of Michigan there and over at Finlandia University. And certainly our old friend Joe Gortera definitely gave his congratulations to Brute Force. We know Joe. Joe is one of the guys we're going to definitely get on here in the next few weeks. But obviously, it's been an interesting journey for Jacob. Obviously, things didn't work out at Five Towns, but he is going to be a D3 basketball player. So I'm looking forward to sharing that journey with him. That'll be next Monday night, probably around 9 o'clock Eastern time on the 13th. And since the Brute Force did mention it, yes, we're looking at hopefully Saturday afternoon, later in the day, to come to the All-American Burger in Massapequa. So if you are in the Long Island area, or if you're in anywhere, if you're in outer space, if you're in Mars, New Jersey, who knows, Brooklyn, wherever else, and you want to come out, I'll meet you, and I'll definitely shake your hand, and I'll pass out my information, whatever you want, and that's I'm happy to do that. Maybe I don't know, 5 o'clock if that's good for people. We'll figure the time out, but I would definitely like to grace my presence in Nassau County. Right, Massapequa is Nassau. It's on the Nassau-Suffolk border.
Correct.
Just on the border.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure because I know I have people out there in Nassau. I have all the people in Suffolk and that, just like in Brooklyn. When I say certain neighborhoods that are wrong, or like on Staten Island. So yes, I will definitely be there, and I hope to meet everybody that listens to Sportswire Radio and some of our basketball players on Long Island and coaches. I will be there, so looking forward to meeting you and some of the gang here. Also, want to make the announcement that we will have more guests coming Thursday afternoon on Sportswire Radio. Pro Wrestling Stars, the Lawman, Kyle Kennedy, and Bentley, who I'm actually part of a promo package, which is taking up by storm here. We get him on 24 hours before he has a world championship match for Bolton Town Wrestling. So want to thank those guys. Also want to shout out our Lyndhurst baseball team for getting another big win on Wednesday. The team plays tomorrow, so looking forward to seeing more success. Congratulations to Vinny Ortega on another accomplishment. So definitely follow the boys and all their success. And I think that's pretty much a wrap here on Sportswire Radio today. I want to thank John Gonzalez from the Sports Authorities Group for allowing us to share all of his stuff that we get to do on his page. Also, Anthony J. Finkel of DPH for his support again, and Joe Dell from Sleepy Hollow. My condolences to him. Also, want to thank everybody that's supporting it. And somebody has had something in the background here. You might want to turn that down if somebody had the radio on.
From Sleepy Hollow,
who was well, now no, I'm going to end here because for whatever reason I'm hearing noise and different thing. I don't know if that's weird. Somebody just realized they were playing the radio, but that was taken off. Happy about that. So we'll be back here Monday, Thursday, and Friday. Obviously Friday with the rest of the gang. You may get a show from us. Actually, that's what I realized I'm going to announce. This coming weekend, we'll have the asset Stephen Cross to get his sides on a match announcement. So we'll have that at some point on sportnarium.com/player. Also, our brand new DJ, Thomas Clark from the other side of the world, 8:30 p.m. British Standard Time, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you like old, new, and in between, he'll play it. Also, thank DJ Slippy for that, giving us this new person that's going to play some music for us. So always like that. You'll also get shows from the Liftoff Jets, Talking Rivals, Pinstripe Chronicles, you name it, we'll play it. Devil's State of Mind, baseball banter, we'll throw in there. Who knows what else? But if you're on sportnarium.com/player, you will get a all-new sit-down Mark show in about 15 minutes. You'll also get a brand new Ammo and Danny show, recapping everything that was in the Premier League at 11 a.m. British Standard Time. If you're on all of our other channels, thank you for tuning in. We'll be back at some point throughout the weekend, and also, again, on sportnarium.com/player. I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce, and alongside me is the Brute Force Brad Weiss, the legendary SJ New York Golden Eagle, also Plainview JFK Boys JV basketball team, Level Up, Long Island Nets, LI Brew Crew, Chris Pizzea, Liftoff Jets, Talking Rivals, Justin Gianelli, baseball banter, Rob Maraska, our longest tenured analyst. I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager here of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Good night. Enjoy the weekend, and we will be back here during the weekend on Sportswire Radio, on all of our social media channels, and on sportnarium.com/player. Thank you very much. Have a great night.